It is Monday, July 13th, 2020, 9 o'clock in the morning, and Commissioners' Court is now in session. Please stand for the prayer and pledge by Commissioner Balloon.
All right. Lord, we need your guidance. We love you. We appreciate you. You gave us life, and that abundantly. And we thank you for the good weather. We thank you for the sharp minds here today. Help us to do what's right. And we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Be seated. We have an action-packed day, so let's get started. The first item on the agenda is public input, and this is for people to address the court on a topic that is not on the agenda. Do we have any public input?
Do you want to have them call in on the phone if you want to?
You can call in on the phone, which is 830-792-6161. I have it here at the bench. There being no public input, let's go to Commissioners' comments. You got anything to say this morning?
I do. The petition drive in Precinct 2 for alcohol beverage has met the goal. Okay?
Right.
So we got over 2,000, the requirement's 2016. It's unofficial, but they've done a check on all of the voter registration, so it looks like it's there. So we'll continue the drive between now and Friday when it has to be turned in to the election folks. And so to get additional number of people, additional signatures on petition just to make sure.
What was the number
But
again?
2016 is
You got
required.
it. Oh, I
We
know
got it.
required, but
We got them.
So it's on the ballot.
No, the next step is then the petitions are given to Bob Reeves and his election folks. They have 30 days, required 30 days to verify. Then he comes back to Commissioners Court, and Commissioners Court issues an order for it to be put on the, if the required votes are there, or signatures are there, then Commissioners Court orders it to be put on the ballot for November 3rd.
Okay, good. Any other commissioner comments?
yes, it's getting dry, real dry. And I've got something to say that's gonna go over precinct lines. We had some really good information last week, or I got an announcement that Texas FFA, there's over 120,000 kids in Texas in FFA. Last week, Blake Mills from Centerpoint FFA was elected president of that organization. With that is huge. Our whole county can be proud of that accomplishment. That's not easy. I've been around these kids, and they're top notch. And when you get up to that level, they are extremely good. So real proud of Blake Mills. The whole county can appreciate that, and he's going to have a heck of a year. He's going to travel. Those that are elected president forego their first year of college. They travel around the state speaking to 3 or 4 FFA chapters each day. And it's action-packed, so proud of him.
Congratulations. Good.
One other thing, if I may, Judge, their Centerpoint Volunteer Fire Departments had a meeting last Saturday to discuss Emergency Service District. It was there just to inform the public and the attendees. They probably had 70 to 80 people there, which was a good sign. So Bob Reeves showed up and talked about Emergency Service District, and good turnout for that. So they are at least seriously considering.
Good.
Good. Mr. Blue?
I don't really have a lot. I want to remind everybody to stay hydrated and stay under a shade tree or stay indoors if you can today, because we got a heat wave.
Right.
Stay in the bunker.
Yeah, stay in the bunker.
It was 84 degrees when I got out of the truck this morning already. Okay, let's go to the agenda item 1.1. Dub Thomas, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action regarding the update, facility use, and matters related to COVID-19.
Morning, Judge. Morning, Commissioners. Hope y'all had a good weekend. The COVID-19 report for today, this is week number 19. DSHS does not update their information over the weekend, so I won't have the weekend's numbers until later on this afternoon. But as of Friday afternoon, Kirk County stood at 161 total active cases, 247 total, 84 recovered and 2 fatalities, and Peterson Regional currently has 7 individuals in the hospital. Total tests that we run in the county, I've got 4156 there, but that's not counting Franklin Clinic and any other local positions that aren't part of the Peterson Health. I think our number is closer to probably about 4,400 total tests countywide. Some of the transmission statistics still, for the first 90 cases that have been investigated by DSHS, 2 traveled outside of Texas, 2 traveled outside of Kirk County but within the state, 8 are unknown, 23 household spread, 23 community spread, 21 close contact, 3 have been lost to follow up, and 8 are workplace exposures here in Kirk County. Some of our age statistics, we have had fortunately nobody younger than 1 year old. 1 through 9, we've had 6, 10 to 19 is 5, 23 for 20 to 29 years old, 23 for 30 to 39, 13 for 40 to 49, 23, including 1 fatality for 50 to 59 years old, 10 from 60 to 64, 4 for 65 to 69, 4 from 70 to 74, 1 fatality of 4 at 75 to 79 years old, and 4 at 80 years and older. So if you take a look at that, if you look at from 20 to 60 is the majority of where all of our cases are coming from the age class. DSHS continues to change their reporting methods as far as testing goes, and there's some information coming out on that this week, and I'm going to try and keep you all updated with that as well. Testing, our last testing was done by the Texas Military Forces on June 30th. They did a total of 548 tests. Only 370 of those were Kirk County residents. And if you'll skip back to the next page, I've got the breakdown on what DSHS sent me for those cases. So we had cases as far out as Los Angeles, Cameron, Kimball, St. Lucie, Kent, Eddy, Kalamazoo Parish, Wood, and Clark, wherever those locations are. So folks were here in Kirk County decided to get tested that day, free testing for the Texas Military Forces. We are doing testing again tomorrow. Testing will be at the Doyle Community Center starting at 8 o'clock. And we've sent out a couple of press releases for how to register for that. They're going to be registering 250 online. And you have to have a confirmation number or you won't be able to get tested. And that's going to be a cheek swab. It's not going to be the nasopharyngeal test. So they should be able to get them through pretty quick. Let's see. Some of our other numbers. Total testing, PRNC's done 2,689 tests. Texas Military Forces 792, nursing homes 675, total positive COVID 159, that's incorrect, should be 167. 161. Still, we got about a 3.87% infection rate of those folks.
But that's out of Peterson.
That's Peterson, Texas Military Forces, and nursing home tests that we've done here.
Oh, all of those, okay.
Yes, sir, all of them.
Now, those are all the same tests?
Yes, sir. Those are all the nasopharyngeal tests, yes, sir.
Now, one quick question. When someone wants to be tested, then they provide information and then they get a appointment or a number or something like that so that there's a record of them wanting to be tested, is that correct?
Yes, sir, whoever they're registering with.
Yeah.
Just
okay.
like that 250 tomorrow.
Yeah, the 250 tomorrow, there'll be a confirmation number and all that stuff.
Okay.
Curative.
Okay.
Which,
Go ahead. Yeah, the state has contracted with a contractor, basically, Curative Incorporated, and they're going to be doing the testing.
Okay, thank you.
No, I was told yesterday that 2 people signed up to get the test, weren't able to take it, and received something in the mail saying they were positive. Is that possible? Can you sign up and get on the registry to have the test on a certain day? and then cancel or not?
I've seen
Go and
that.
Still get something in the mail?
I have a clue. I've seen that on social media posted, not just for Kerr County,
this
but I've
was-
seen it posted in other places.
I
I don't know if it's just one that's floating around or.
Well, I got a call yesterday and fairly reliable source about it here in county. You know, I've seen it on social media. You know, you can't prove it, and, you know, who knows? But I heard about it here, probably maybe the same one.
This was a reliable source. too.
Mine was too, and it was, I was gonna ask it if you weren't gonna ask it, if you had any people like that. That
Nobody
all-
is.
You know, for whatever reason, I don't remember if the line was too long, they got hot, didn't wanna wait any longer, and they went home, and boom, magically, a couple days later, they get some confirmation that they're positive. And, you know, I hope that's not true, but if it is, good grief.
Well, my question is there a scenario by which that can happen? How does the testing work?
Well, when they come into the mobile testing, they register right then, or at least that's the way it was working with the walk-up. They register right then, and they go in and get their test, and then they're out the door.
That's what I thought. So is there a possibility to go online and register and then not take the test, or
Well,
is
those
this even a
tomorrow will be.
possible outcome?
I guess anything's possible. So
See, I never saw any social media about it. I had somebody directly tell me.
Yeah.
I've seen it a couple of times on Facebook where it was posted for Kerr County, and then I had somebody posted, a friend of mine posted it from someplace, another county clean on the other side of Texas. So. I
Is
guess
Rusty in the,
anything's
yeah,
possible.
Rusty's back. Rusty, have you heard anything on that?
No, I've
Okay.
seen the same thing posted on social media, but I haven't heard anything directly from anybody that
Sure.
actually had it happen to them.
I think we've all heard it directly.
Yeah. Well, this
No, I
call
wouldn't
is
have
somebody I think a lot of, and,
The answer is we don't know.
Right.
yeah, so, yeah, I don't want to start rumors, but,
Well, when you hear that kind of stuff from somebody you know has been truthful and is trustworthy, then you need to investigate.
Yeah, and then we'd have to talk to DSHS and whoever it was that was doing the testing, Texas Military Force. Well, Texas Military Force won't be doing it anymore, but Curative will be, so maybe we'll,
well, I trust our people, local people and stuff.
Sure.
But that stuff is all sent off, and,
Right.
some of the other numbers about COVID-19 spreading in Texas over the weekend, it was total positive cases was 250,462. Total deaths for Texas was 3,112. Total recovered was 127,880. Total tests for statewide is 2.7 million. Of that, 2.4 million have been the viral test, meaning the nasopharyngeal swab. The others are the antibody test, which was 214,000. Our surrounding counties, Kendall County's at 119, Medina at 197 with 3 fatalities, Gillespie at 69 cases, Bandera 41, Kimball 9, and Real County at 4. And there's still only 247 counties have positive COVID-19 cases. The DSHS Region 8 numbers, of which we are part of, active cases is 15,744 so far. Recovered are 9,870, total of 230 deaths, and they still have 1,395 cases pending investigation. So that's how far behind DSHS is still, but they're trying to work up and catch up. Any questions on the numbers or anything?
Thanks.
appreciate you, Doug.
No more breaking news from the governor's office, so.
Doug,
Yeah.
one thing that I would really like to see next week is if you could go back and kind of graph how we, since May 1, what we've done by week, so we could kind of see the numbers, because we know that there's been a sharp spike here recently. Just trying to get a visual so we can gauge where we are with this coronavirus.
Yes, sir.
I'd
I
appreciate
can do
that.
that.
Anything else for Doug Thomas? As always, thank you for your good work.
I appreciate it. Y'all have a good week.
Okay, next item on the agenda is 1.2, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action regarding the local state of disaster due to a public health and economic emergency proclamation that was signed by me on March the 24th and extended until terminated by order of the Kerr County Commissioners Court on March 30. We talk about this every week. Does anybody want to make a motion to terminate the state of disaster? Okay, since there's no motion, we'll move on to item 1.3. Sheriff, let me hand you, these are the people that want to speak on item 1.3. Kind of get you started.
Do we want to announce if some of them are upstairs?
Sure, I'll read them off. In this order: Amber Burris, McKenna Hall, Nathaniel Hall, Roger Hall, Terry Hall, Peter Lockwood, Natalie Swicker, I don't know, Angela Fiedler. Those are the ones who've asked to address the court.
In that order, guys.
In that order. So let me go ahead and call it. 1.3, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to close the Hill Country Youth Event Center for all events except for health and safety or governmental functions. I guess we need to probably start with our county attorney.
Yes, sir.
The sheriff and the county attorney and I talked about this last week. We have some major events coming up at the Youth Event Center that are truly powder kegs, and we're concerned about what to do. And it was complicated when I talked to the county attorney, who had been talking to TAC, the Texas Association of Counties, to find out that we are in jeopardy of not having insurance coverage, depending on the actions that we take. So with that, let me turn it over to Ms. Stebbins.
When I talked to TAC last week related to face coverings and other COVID issues, they had not had to address a claim for a county like this yet, and they're just kind of waiting for something to come up. But depending on the court's actions and elected officials' actions, coverage could be questionable for a claim that, while it's probably a long shot, someone saying that they contracted COVID from, the courthouse because an office is open, they weren't complying with an order. That causation will be hard to prove, but it's possible that tax insurance pool wouldn't cover us for that type of claim if it was proven.
Well, and let me weigh in, and I appreciate you staying here to help us with this today. As a 45-year practicing attorney and old coverage lawyer, I appreciate TAC's candidness with us. When it comes to insurance, negligent acts are covered. Mistakes are covered. Intentional acts are not. And if we intentionally do not follow the governor's order, there's a question being posed at the highest levels in the state right now, legally, whether or not the insurance coverage would be in effect or not, because we have intentionally disregarded an order that we were supposed to do.
How would we be doing that?
Well, it has to do with the mask.
If you have the safety requirements in place that have been demanded by the governor, then you should be absolved of any kind of claim.
Like right now, we're 6 feet apart. I got mine. If I walk through the crowd, I'm gonna put it on.
Yeah.
I would think we're covered.
Go through the protocol and you're covered. That's what he demanded, we do that.
Then it come down to two things. Number one is insurance, and the other is the governor's order. Okay? Governor's order, correct me if I'm wrong, said indoor gathering, okay? Let's let the youth center be an indoor gathering. 50% of the occupants safely can be there. 50%. Okay? Let's just say that facility can hold 300 people. Well, it can hold a lot more than that safely. Okay? 50%.
We've determined the capacity to be 500.
Oh, okay, let's use 500 then. So it says 250 can be there.
No, excuse me, I misspoke.
Wait.
1,500 is half.
Okay, okay.
Fire marshal says that.
Stand by,
Yeah.
stand by. So 1,000 people, so 500 can be there according to the governor's order. Okay, now the next question is, it's a county facility, okay? So are we liable if we follow the governor's order, okay, and let people accumulate there or have a meeting there of up to 500 people?
This is not about liability. This is about coverage.
Okay, well, okay, but, okay, so let's just, okay, coverage then rather than liability, okay? Coverage, okay, so insurance coverage. So we're saying, we're adhering to the governor's orders, okay? But we're also listening to TAC about coverage. So two separate things. Governor says it's okay. TAC says, we don't know. Is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay? So how do we make a decision if we follow the governor's order and TAC says we don't know?
Are they saying they don't think the governor's right?
No.
No.
they didn't
Well,
say
then
that.
what are they saying?
That they don't know.
My specific questions to them was related to willful disregard for the governor's order in wearing masks in a public place, in public spaces, in county facilities particularly. And willful disregard of that order would bring into question the coverage.
But we wouldn't be disregarding it if 500 people are there.
If they're 6 feet apart and they're wearing masks.
Right, that's
No,
true.
you don't have to wear a mask indoors, do you?
The
it says-
public spaces.
Unless you're 6 feet apart.
Okay,
6
6
feet.
feet apart, okay.
6 feet apart or the
Yeah,
I think that
yeah.
I think that it applies to public spaces.
I'm sorry, I
Whether
couldn't hear
I
you.
think it applies to
I
public
don't see an
spaces,
issue.
whether you're 6 feet apart or not.
How is there an issue? Is this just to
This is, so the
reiterate?
governor has said you can have the 50% there, and complying with that is reasonable. I think that the question came up because we talked about what's responsible. And having 500 people gather where they will be, at some of these events, some of them will be parties, where they'll be drinking and eating and not wearing their masks. And there's people coming from different communities into our community with 500 people gathering, whether that's responsible or not. I think
I don't
that's,
think it's about responsibility, it's about what's legal or what the.
well, that's what
executive
started
order-
the conversation, was what's responsible here. And that's how we got into the that's why, when I talked to him about
But
the judge.
that's
and-
not how you determine these things. You're a lawyer. you
I
know.
am, and I'm not here to tell you what's responsible or not. That's up to y'all. I'm just here to tell you what TAC said to me when I asked them about the masks and about the possibility of coverage. And we have to think about all of that if we want to be taken care of by our insurance provider.
Let me
Y'all, I can be done standing up here in front of y'all now, and y'all can talk about what's
Well,
responsible.
we've got a lot of other people who want to talk.
Let me ask another question. This is going to be to the sheriff. Let's say that we follow the governor's order, we keep it to 500 or less. We tell the people that they have to have social distancing, 6 feet, wear a mask or not wear a mask, whatever the governor says. Let's say we do that. My question is, how do we enforce that?
You asking me?
Yeah.
It's unenforceable.
Okay, all right.
Okay,
So
but-
then it goes back to, let me explain my point. So we go back to, we follow the governor's order, TAC says we don't know, okay? We let 500 people in, some people don't socially distance or don't wear their mask, whatever it's supposed to do, but we don't enforce it. So it's kind of very confusing to me. I'm not in favor of mandating something we don't know what the hell we're talking about.
Well, that's already happened.
No, we haven't. We haven't mandated
No,
anything.
we haven't, the governor has. He's
We haven't
mandated
mandated-
something that people don't even
I'm
understand.
talking about us.
Okay.
I'm talking about us.
Well, I can tell you, in my theory on insurance, it's a hell of a lot easier to buy insurance than it is to get them to pay up. And I don't care what kind of insurance it is.
We're talking about mandating.
Well, I know, but we're also talking about where our insurance comes from and what might be
So
possible.
ultimately, this is about insurance.
Yeah.
And Judge, you distinguished between coverage and liability. What did you mean by that?
Well,
Having a policy at all versus paying it off?
to establish liability, you're going to have to prove, number one, that we had a duty, that we breached that duty, and that proximately caused somebody's injury, okay? It's the causation. When Ms. Stebbins talks about, it's going to be pretty hard to prove that what we did caused somebody to get COVID. That's going to be a causation issue. That goes to liability. What we're looking at in insurance is, are they going to pay for our defense? Or are we going to have to come out of pocket and pay for our defense if we get sued? Because what we're looking at, and let's just be specific. What we're looking at in insurance is, are they going to pay for our defense? Or are we going to have to come out of pocket and pay for our defense if we get sued? Because what we're looking at, and let's just be specific. We're talking about a major social event. 500 people are anticipated to attend. The sheriff's office has already declined to provide security for this event because it's that unruly. Okay? It is a quinceañera. And there's going to be, they're going to start about 5 o'clock. It goes to what? Midnight, 1 o'clock?
I think 1 o'clock in the morning was
1
the
o'clock
time
in the morning.
Jason.
There will be alcohol involved. There will be bands. There will be dancing. There will be eating and drinking. And you don't have to wear your mask if you're eating or drinking. So you're going to have all these people. And we know what that's going to look like. Is that a risk that the county is willing to take? And possibly not be insured for it?
I think we've got a lot of people want to talk about this, and then we're gonna have to wrap up and have our comments.
If I can add one thing that was a sort of a creative solution that I talked to Commissioner Lutz with on Friday. He said, what if we modify for now what types of events and limit it by number and make sure that they're not serving alcohol at the events. If the governor has found it fit to close bars, then why don't we follow suit while not required and say, okay, if you're going to have alcohol served, well, you can't have alcohol served at your event, and the events can be limited by a certain number. So you can make a decision to say we're not going to have any events there now, or you can make a decision that gives you some room minus alcohol limited to a number of people. And that it may be a inflexible number for some events, you know, they may be at 150 and you say 100, but you have to have, it has to be something, or nothing. It's up to you.
Well, I have a problem with the ambiguity of the thing. We had a gun show out there. I don't know how many hundreds of people were there. We had a rodeo out there. I don't know how many hundreds of people.
2
were
nights
there.
of rodeo.
Huh? 2 nights.
2 nights of rodeo.
We had hundreds of people there. We're supposed to limit it to 10 outside.
No, rodeos and equestrian events are exempted by the governor.
Okay.
It's sports,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
That's a
Okay,
different
so-
exemption, but sports, youth sports. Youth
Okay.
sports.
Okay. So that was exempted. So the gun show, we had hundreds of people there. So we didn't do anything about that. So it's,
why
you know,
this?
we can't have these, I think we ought to be consistent, okay? I think we ought to be consistent with what the governor says, and to limit it to 500 is consistent with what the governor said. But TAC, and I understand that the insurance thing, TAC is saying, we don't know. So,
The one thing I'd like to clear up real quick, Sheriff's Office providing security out there. Us providing security is an off-duty job for the deputies. It's not part of the Sheriff's Office. The contract requires they have peace officers. I have the authority to approve what off-duty jobs that our officers work because there is some county liability on it. And I decline for our officers to work that type of off-duty situation just because of the risk. You know, if we're testing 10% positive right now, and you're at an event that it is exempted for some reason, and I never understood this, the governor's put in a limit on outdoor events to 10 or more approved by the mayor or the county judge. But on indoor events, there is no limit. Okay? And so I have an issue with that. If we're testing 10% and you put 500 people in there, then you've got at least probably 50, if you can, you know, say that are going to be positive. And because they're consuming alcohol or a drink, it doesn't have to be alcohol. Consuming or eating, they don't have to have a mask on.
if they're seated.
Doesn't say anything about if they're seated.
Is that?
Okay? In fact, I saw people walking into Walmart this weekend with a Coke in their hand. All right? They required them to have it on. As soon as they got in there, they took a mask off. Because they're consuming. There's a lot of issues. You know, TDCAA has even said on the law enforcement, TDCAA is Texas District County Attorneys Association, which is most of your prosecutors in the state. They've said this 28 is unenforceable when it comes to law enforcement. And I can't enforce it. And that's where we stand.
Good.
So in order for your deputies to provide off-duty security, you have to approve of all of those?
Yes.
Okay.
Because there is some liability in that type of what the county absorbs.
Well, I learned something.
Okay, are you ready to move forward, Judge?
Yes?
So
Amber's in the
Amber's
room.
first one.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Amber Burris. I represent HEB Pharmacy. On the issue of closing the Hill Country Youth Exhibit Center, if the decision is to be made to close it, would we be able to still hold our annual flu clinic that we do each year? We do it with the emergency preparedness team here
Yes.
In the county. Okay.
The governmental function, just like we did the COVID testing out there.
Perfect.
What the item that's on the agenda
Okay.
is to not have the social events out there.
Right. And I just wanted to make sure it just to cover it
Yes.
so we can plan. Thank you.
Amber, I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
I know you're a 4-H leader and stuff.
I am.
You have any comments as far as that goes?
I do, but I don't. I'm very mixed. I'm very mixed. My kiddo is in 4-H. She shows animals. We're really debating whether we're going to do that this year. This would severely limit us, right? Basically, she wouldn't have that experience this year.
Okay.
I'm torn as a health professional. Honestly, I think gatherings of 500 people is a little much. And I don't think that's going to help us at all. Whether y'all can or cannot or choose to do it, that's up to you guys. But as a mom of a 4-H kiddo, yes, I would love for her to have that experience, but I don't know how it would be regulated. So at the stock show last year, I don't know how many of us left there with the flu. My family included all of us. Things spread.
Sure.
It happens.
Sure.
So I'm very torn. As a health professional, I don't think that events should be out there, but as a parent, I would love for her to be able to have the experience. So I'm kind of torn.
I wasn't gonna let you get off that easy.
I know you weren't, dang it. And like I said, I'm torn. I honestly, I don't know, and unfortunately, y'all have a very hard decision to make. But I just wanted to make sure that we could still serve the community for the flu clinic and also use that as a COVID preparedness if a vaccine should come out, how we could do it. So,
Thanks.
you're very welcome. Thank you.
Who's next?
It will be the Hall family. There'll be 4 of them coming in.
Okay.
Here's hers and the 4.
So next we're going to have, I'll have them introduce themselves. I think she is.
Good morning. My name is McKenna Hall, and this is my sister Madeline Hall. We both live here in Ingram, and I will be a graduating high school senior this year. I have been an active member in the 4-H program for the past 7 years. Over the years, I have held several officer positions, including president, council delegate, and council officer. The Youth Event Center has played a pivotal part in our 4-H activities in Kerr County. The ability to use the center is even more important now because it is the only place big enough to social distance while staying out of the heat. The graduating seniors this year have put up with enough. Everything we had to look forward to was canceled. My 4-H scholarship banquet and ceremony was canceled. State 4-H was canceled. Senior school activities were all canceled. We could barely have graduations, and even some kids couldn't even do that. The last thing I have for my entire 4-H and high school career is the Kerr 4-H Award Ceremony on August 1st, which is held at the Event Center. If the center is closed, I will lose that too. What sense does it make to close the only place where you can have an event and still social distance? Youth aren't even at risk from the virus, so why are we the ones being punished? I'm not just here for my own benefit. I'm here for everyone in the County 4-H program. We all share the same sentiment. This past year, I have served as the 4-H Horse Club president. Though I'm graduating, I choose not to leave Kerrville, but I will stay here to go to Schreiner University, where I will be on the equestrian team. This was only made possible through my participation and study in the Horse Project. I hope to continue as a 4-H alumni by coaching our horse judging and horse quiz bowl programs this next year. The Youth Center will be vital to our practices and recruitment for the year. I also gave educational presentations during our recruiting event called Big Bash, as well as Ag Awareness Day, which boosted our 4-H enrollment. We need our Youth Center opened. The Extension office is not big enough to meet and still social distance. Even this summer, our younger students could not meet with our senior students because of social distancing. Without the Youth Center open, these educational activities would not be possible. Kids camps and sports programs continue. Why would our commissioners want to shut down our vital 4-H leadership, livestock, ag, STEM, and other academic programs that give us a productive educational experience? Please keep our youth center open. It is the glue that holds our 4-H program together, and please do not let us down again. Thank you.
Are you using the timer?
I am now.
Hello, I'm Nathaniel Hall. This is Samuel Hall and Jonathan Hall, my brothers, and we live in Ingram. And I am testifying against shutting down the Hill Country Youth Event Center. Over the past few years, due to the size of the County AgriLife Extension Office and the amount of clubs, projects, and 4-H and outside organizations, we are constantly full. So they have to use the Youth Event Center for many of our horse club and robotics practices. Whether it's a simple project meeting, our big bashy recruiting event, wild game dinner, or officer trainings, Ag Awareness Day, or livestock shows, we need our Youth Event Center to keep our 4-H program alive and thriving. Tomorrow, we're supposed to launch our first STEM camp to help educate kids all across the state about science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. This last year, it was my privilege to serve as one of our Texas 4-H STEM ambassadors. Our county, our country, and our state desperately need smart, innovative students in this field to become the next generation's leaders in science and technology. It will be to our national security, our medical field, cybersecurity and agriculture, and virtually every industry in the future. Our STEM camp is an important first step leading our youth into a career of the future. I'm also going to serve as president of our West Kerr 4-H Club this year, as well as a council officer again. We need the youth center for officer trainings to equip our leaders to lead our clubs this next year, and especially to help us navigate the coronavirus and still keep our clubs and students enthusiastic about the coming year. When virtually everything is constantly up in the air and being canceled left and right, we feel like our hands are being tied behind our backs every turn just to get basic tasks completed. Limping along is no way to build a vital 4-H youth program. We need to be able to count on your support to keep our 4-H program not just alive, but thriving. With so many disappointments this year, one highlight we've been looking forward to all summer is the upcoming awards ceremony scheduled for August 1st. Many of us have worked all year to submit a record book, go through rigorous interviews processes, work very hard in serving as officers and doing countless hours of community service, which all goes into our annual awards program that recognizes the year's hard work and accomplishments. COVID-19 has canceled most of our 4-H year. Even our state competitions at A&M, I even qualified for several competitions that were canceled, even though I spent years preparing for that moment. I had a shot to go into nationals. Even so, we have continued to do our best to improve our county, learn more, lead you through a life-changing program, and salvage what competitions we could. Please do not punish our county 4-H program any further by shutting down our youth event center for these important programs. We need our youth center to stay open. With so few places large enough for groups to meet and still allow for social distancing, it doesn't make sense to close our youth center now. Doing so would make it near impossible to keep a vibrant 4-H program in our county this next school year. We need your help. Please do not let us down. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Roger Hall. I am a 4-H parent, a volunteer in the 4-H Robotics Project, a leader of that, and I'm also a concerned father. I'm here to ask the county to keep the Hill Country Youth Event Center open. This facility is vital for our area's youth development and education. An example of this, as has been mentioned, is the STEM camp. And I think everybody understands here how vital STEM involvement of kids being involved in the STEM programs and giving them the vision of what they can do in careers to further their community's effectiveness. Those careers could be, just to name a few, it would be mechanical engineering, agricultural engineering, computer systems engineering, veterinarians, physicians, fisheries scientists. We need our students to learn about these fields and encourage them to pursue a career that can fill these needs in our region. Another example of how this facility is vital is through the 4-H Robotics Project that I lead. Each year, the September Bash is a field trip hosted here to introduce the area youth to all that our 4-H county programs offer. This is a key event to recruit kids and families that would not otherwise know how 4-H can extend their educational experience and expand their horizons. Projects and clubs within the 4-H program also need the space to hold meetings. The robotics projects, for example, are regular biweekly meetings. This last year we were meeting at a local school. Well, the schools, as we all know, are very ambiguous on if they're going to even be open. So we need facilities like this that are open to maintain social distancing and continue programs. So I'm here just to ask you to support our youth, and please do not close this facility. And then on a second item, just while I'm up here, I think it was item 1.5.
No, we can't talk about that.
Can't talk about that yet?
Not until it's called.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello, Terry Hall at 118 Independence in Ingram. Also 4-H parent, longtime 4-H parent, as you can tell. The Youth Center is certainly integral to our county 4-H program. It's for recruiting, our fundraiser, officer club and club manager training, project meeting and practices, Ag Awareness Day, livestock shows, and more. It's the only building large enough for us to social distance and gather. We need high quality youth programs for our kids. I think we're all concerned with rising crime rates. We've seen rioting in the streets, tearing down of monuments, but these kids aren't the problem. They're our solution. 4-H also shows the way how to excite kids about rural Texas and educate them and train them for the next generation of ag jobs that will keep our talent and young people here in Kerrville and stop the brain drain to the big cities. In just a few weeks, 4-H will host its annual awards program, as you heard. These kids have worked so hard to serve their clubs, our community, learn amazing amounts of information. It makes my brain hurt thinking about half of it. They hone their skills to excel in and compete at a very high level in these projects. They wait all year in hopes of having their name called during the awards program. With everything that's been canceled again and again, please don't take this from them too. The federal government is covering COVID cases, and 4-H kids are covered under the Texas 4-H insurance. I don't think this is a liability problem for y'all. Please keep our youth center open to them.
Thank you. These are all the people who have to speak on item 1.4?
Still have two more, Judge.
Two more? Okay. That's all I have.
He's still got the other sheets in his hand.
Yeah, but these two are 1.5.
Oh,
Okay. Got it. Good. Please identify yourself.
My name is Peter Lockwood, and I am in 8th grade at Hal Peterson Middle School. I've been a proud 4-H member for 6 years, raising market lands and participating in various outdoor and leadership projects. I have recently been elected East Kerr Club President and Council Delegate for the Kerr County 4-H Council. On behalf of my fellow club members and all of Kerr County 4-H, I would like to ask the court to vote against the closure of Hill Country Youth Event Center. The Hill Country Youth Event Center is very important to the functioning of 4-H. We hold club meetings, project meetings, training sessions, and special events there throughout the school year and summer. It is also very important to those of us who show livestock to help raise money for college. Closing the Ag Barn would mean the cancellation of shows and clinics that ultimately prepare us for the Hill Country District Junior Livestock Show. I am confident that if the Hill Country Youth Event Center remains open, you can trust that the 4-H adult leadership will ensure proper safety procedures for themselves and the 4-H members in their charge. In fact, our family has experienced this during activities held at the Ag Barn this summer. So once again, I implore you to please vote against the closure of the Hill Country Youth Event Center for the sake of the continuation of 4-H activities this year and how much these activities mean to the youth of Kerr County. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
thank you.
Very well done.
Well done.
We'll have one more after this young lady.
Please state your name and your address.
Next one's Angela.
Good morning, Judge Kelly and Commissioners. I am Nayeli Swigger, and I am the incoming president of the Kerrville 4-H Club. The Youth Event Center is vital to the Kerr County 4-H program. 4-H is more than showing livestock. 4-H builds leaders and instills lifelong skills and confidence. 4-H took me, a shy, bullied kid who got soap shoved in her face, to the girl that you see today. Without the event center, we can no longer hold our meetings, trainings, project experiences, or livestock shows. And I feel that there are ways that we can compromise without sacrificing our health and safety. The Extension Office has enforced strict rules and policies to keep us safe. The Event Center is doing a great job as well. And I respectfully ask that you consider not only those members like myself who only have 1 more year left, but the incoming members excited to start their 4-H careers, and those who already have time and money invested in their livestock when making this difficult decision. The Event Center is like a second home. If I'm not at home, I'm at the Event Center, working my livestock, participating in community service, Ag Awareness Day, anything that involves the Event Center. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
This is the completed file.
I think I'm the last one. So. I'm Angela. I think I know all of you here. Y'all heard from a few of our families today. We asked them to come support keeping the event center open. I realize y'all have a difficult decision to make. I guess I would ask you to consider educational programs, and we can look at how we can keep those kids and adults and volunteers safe, and we've already been doing that. We do have a STEM camp that starts tomorrow, and we have already have made arrangements to be at the event center, so we will have to find another place, and it's not going to be an easy transition to make. As far as your liability, I know I heard that come up with liability with the TAC and things like that. We have our own liability policy with 4-H. They're covered under 4-H Inc., and we can get more information to you about that if you need that kind of information. But I would ask that you would make an exemption for the educational side of it, and that would include 4-H and other types of educational programs. So do y'all have any questions on the 4-H end?
On 4-H? No.
We use that event center all
You're
the time.
not the problem.
And yes.
I have a question, Angela. How many kids are registered?
We have over 300 kiddos. One thing about, and I will bring this up about our STEM camp, it was actually open to all youth, not just 4-H youth. So that's one thing that we try to encompass, not just for our 4-H kids. It seems like our 4-H kids are the ones that are more apt to come to those. And we had another camp earlier in the summer, and that was open. We let others come to that too. So we don't just limit it to 4-H youth. If we can, we open that up because it's a great way to recruit and to show them what 4-H can offer. So, and we don't discriminate. That's one of the things that we do through 4-H and AgriLife through our programming. So if y'all have any questions, don't hesitate. I know you have a tough decision to make, but we would ask for the support of the event center. That is the only place we can safely social distance at this time until y'all build us another building.
Thank you.
It's not happening, so. All right, well, thank you so much. Y'all have a great day.
Thanks.
I believe that was the last speaker.
Any other discussion about item 1.3?
I do. The governor has given us these hoops to jump through. I don't want to make those hoops any smaller. If we do what he's laid out and let it be known to anybody that uses the facility, then we'll go by his jump through the hoops he's put out there for us. But like I said, I don't want to make them any smaller and more restrictive. That's my opinion.
The governor's clearly stated what the requirements are, 50%. So that's a given, okay, for what we're working with right now. I look at it as risk versus benefits, okay? The benefits, we've heard a lot of testimony here today. I think we know the benefits. In my judgment, the benefits way outweigh, excuse me, thank you, outweigh the risk. Okay, there's some question for TAC on that, but I think, we'll ought to face that risk if we get there. But I think the benefits are huge, so, in keeping it open. Per the governor's guidelines.
Anything else? Any motions?
I make a motion that we adhere to the governor's guidelines of 50% occupancy in the Hill Country Youth Event Center for all events. Period.
Second.
Okay, motion been made by Commissioner Moser, seconded by Commissioner Harris, to keep the event center open at 50% capacity. Is that right?
Correct.
And any other of the governors?
That's it.
Any other discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed? 3-1. Okay, let's move on to item 1.4. Consider, discuss, and take appropriate action regarding the tax rate increases for Kirk County properties, including agricultural, residential, and commercial properties. And we've got a whole, let's give.
You want to call out the first one so they can be making
He's got
their
a
way down?
list.
Oh, he does.
And so we're going to start with, Larry Prio, Mike Matheny.
Judge, one thing we're about 8 or 10 minutes till the 10 o'clock hour.
Oh, we're not going to stop at 10.
Okay.
We're going.
I had Larry Prio and Darlene Taylor, then Tom Waller, you and Cindy Reck.
Okay.
I'm glad you have them here. I'll get them up.
Judge, this thing says tax rate increase. It doesn't say appraised value.
We have
Is
no.
that okay?
This is what they want to talk about.
Tax rate, okay. But I think, I want to hear what the appraised value is too. It says tax rate, so I don't know what.
The appraised value is at 11.
No, but this one says.
Okay.
Regarding the tax rate increases.
Well, it should.
That's what it says.
I know.
You know what the county, I'm all for listening to all of this, but I'm just
Without a
saying.
doubt.
Don't want somebody challenging us. Those kids are impressive.
Of course.
God.
Without a doubt. We have great youth here. And,
Wow.
just like I started out with that boy, FFA. I mean, good grief. That's incredible.
Yeah. Wow.
We've been turning out some good ones for a long time, both programs.
Please state your name and address.
I'm Larry Prio. I live at 1996 Shepherd Reese Road, just outside of Kerr. I was born and raised here. I grew up in a ranching family, and except for some years going away to school, I've been here all my life. I'm 71 years old, and I've never formally protested property taxes before. I'm a member of a large group of over 100 property owners. We represent 85,000 acres of ranch in Kirk County, plus many residential properties in Kirk County. We are here today protesting the unreasonably high property appraisal values issued by the Kerr County Appraisal District, and we are seeking relief. The appraisal district has increased the taxable ag productivity value by at least 47%. They have gone from $60 an acre to $88 an acre. To put this $88 an acre into perspective, Edwards County went down 1% to $45 on their ag productivity value. Kendall County's at 64, Riall County's at 53, and Kimball County's at $48 an acre. We're at 88. The Kerr Appraisal District mailed out these values out in May, which is customary. This was also 2 months into the coronavirus shutdown, at a time when many ranchers and farmers were seriously hurting, along with many, many other people. You would think that there'd be enough sense of fairness and compassion somewhere in the appraisal district to pull back and say, we can't do this to the taxpayer in a year such as this, and it should be done fair. I have witnessed over 50 years as property taxes have increased, more and more ranchers go out of business. The ranches get sold, they get cut up, they get taken out of production. Production by ranchers and farmers is vital to all of us. The profit margin for ranching is low. Our Mountain Home Ranch has only shown a profit in 2 out of the last 5 years. Currently, because of many canceled hunts and low cattle prices due to COVID-19, we do not have enough money in the bank to pay for labor and feed to get through the end of this month.
Mr. Priol, I need to ask you to wrap it up because your 3 minutes has expired.
Hopefully, hunting and cattle prices will pick up by the fall. The estimated increase in property taxes on this ranch is $3,250 more than it was last year.
I'm Daily Taylor. I'll give my time to Claire.
Okay.
The appraisal office say that they were told by the comptroller's office to raise property values, and thus they feel justified in these excessive increases. So far, they have refused to show us any communications that they have had with the comptroller instructing them to raise the appraised values. And they have hired a lawyer to block us from seeing the complete surveys that they used and didn't use to raise the ag values. I've got a letter here from their lawyer. There should be 5 copies there. This letter from their lawyer was sent to Attorney General Ken Paxton asking for a ruling on not releasing all the survey data because of confidentiality. There are false claims in that letter as to timeliness, and I can prove it. I have attached to the back of the letter a copy of the data that they did provide us for fencing expenses, and that includes the owner's names. Why are they afraid to give us the full data with names on the grazing and hunting lease amounts that determine income for raising ag values? I can tell you some of the numbers that they have used are doubtful and unrealistic. Fortunately, one other thing, their data needs to be verified. Fortunately, the final tax amount is determined by the taxing entities, and that's why we are here today to ask the court to reduce the county tax rate so that the taxes are close to last year's amounts. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you. So bottom line was it is tax rate. Yeah.
Yeah, I've talked to Larry. He understands that. We have no control over the price.
Right.
I've known him for
Yeah.
20 years.
Yeah, I talked to him too, but I want to be sure to hear what they said, so that was the reason I raised the question. 85,000 acres.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Please give us your name and address.
Yes. My name is Thomas Wallace. I live at 2537 Rogers Circle. We also have a family ranch on 275 Hugo Real. And just want to say thank you for your time and allowing us to be here to speak. Good morning. I'm Thomas Wallace, and I raise commercial Angus cattle on my family's land in Kerr County that has been in our family for 5 generations since 1857. The Kerr County Appraisal District has increased the productivity value of ag 48% and higher across the board. To put this into perspective, the Appraisal District is putting our ag productivity value at $88 an acre. This blanket tax increase was based upon surveys sent out asking confusing and non-specific questions about the ag units. It is my understanding that 1,000 surveys were sent out and only 300 returned. Less than 30% of the sample populace determined the current valuation. One has to ask, what is the confidence level of this sample? Not knowing the true population of ag producers in Kerr County, I cannot provide exact numbers, but one can assume that the survey has less than 20% accuracy in relation to the complete landowner population. It is important to remember that the productivity of a ranch is highly variable and dependent on ranch size, topography, water availability, type, volume, diversity of vegetation, soils, weather, and climate patterns, as well as, most importantly, landowner preference. If one person wants to constantly purchase wildlife, import them to their ranch, and overgraze the grass to increase their hunting production, that is landowner preference. The other landowner preference might be to conserve the land and not overgraze the pasture in order to have sustainable cattle production. The conservation-minded landowner should not be penalized or taxed unfairly because he or she cares about the long-term future of their land. That is why the agricultural productivity value needs to have landowner input along with the county appraisal district regarding formulas, expenses, and other pertinent factors. In summary, we have been given a net to land value based on less than 1/3 of the population input, which provides for less than 20% accuracy. This valuation has come during a time when cattle prices have been flat, if not declined, and costs have increased. The method or model used places a tax on the supposed potential income of the land. However, the reality of the situation is that the land is not suddenly 50% more agriculturally productive this year than that from the year 2019. What has changed? Why the almost 50% increase in 1 year? What will 2021 be like? I admit that a tax is justifiable as ag production does wear on county roads and does utilize county services. However, I do not see how suddenly an increase of nearly 50% can honestly be applied. Please, Commissioners, I ask of you relief in any form possible on your part. I also strongly encourage KCAL to reevaluate their methods and formulas for taxation on agricultural productivity values. We would like to work together to make this ag exemption fair for both the appraisal district and the landowner, using it for its true purpose when created in the 1960s to keep farmers and ranchers like myself and my children in business for generations to come. Thank you for your time and the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Did you want to speak, ma'am?
She was here in case we needed some extra time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just so y'all know, Jonathan called in and is listening. Did you want to say anything, Jonathan? Or?
No, I'll just listen.
Okay.
If you would, please state your name and address.
My name is Louis Strohacker, 1400 Bushwhack Road. We have Loma Vista Ranch, which was founded in 1900 by my grandfather Oscar Strohacker and his brother-in-law and good friend Hubert Heinen. Originally, the ranch was about 5,000 acres, and my father purchased 3,500 of them right after World War II. And he managed it until his death, and I have in 95, and I have been the manager and co-owner with the other descendants since 1995. We might go ahead and give them, I have copies of my little presentation here to give you. First I want to talk about livestock price history. Did a little research here, and it looks like the livestock prices are no higher than they were 10 years ago during the drought, where everybody sold off all their stock. There was massive sell-off. They were selling and killing over 5,000 head of cattle a week. And I know I took a trip in there up into Wyoming to my son's wedding, and we counted, I went with a cousin, and we counted cattle, and we only counted 500 cattle between here and Wyoming. Anyway, down here on the attachment in here is a graph. Looks something like that. That is a graph of, there's two of those graphs. One is steer prices. It starts in 2010. Actually, it's the end of 2010. That particular one is actually January of 2011, and then 2011 is December of 11. I used where I could December because the appraisal office works on end of year data they claim. So anyway, in the little chart in front of that is just my data that I downloaded. So anyway, the prices started out about $1.50 a pound, and there was a rise in 2014, and then the next year it's pretty much back down to where it was. And so, you know, I know we've all seen grocery store prices for beef and stuff go way up, but guess what? The farmers and ranchers aren't getting it. The guy that hauls them off in an 18-wheeler gets more out of it. So,
Mr. Strohacker, I need you to wrap it up pretty quickly. Your 3 minutes just expired.
oh, okay.
Okay.
The next thing I wanted to talk about just slightly is that I have a profit and loss statement in here, and in the attachment there is a backup from my CPA, but we have been experiencing losses every year for a number of years. So anyway, ag productivity is largely influenced by the quality of land and rainfall. Rainfall's been fairly short the last decade, and we also have the influence of you know, what quality of land you have, and what we have is very rocky, very thin soils. That's not unusual for around here, but it's certainly not like it over in the Blackland Prairie or something like that, where they do have much higher ag productivity. I have some stuff in here on influences, regulations, predators, restrictions. We've got so many things that we have to deal with now. And I've listed a bunch here, and one I thought of since I wrote the list was we now have a lot of human invaders. And they just come through, and it used to be these people from Mexico, you know, they just went through and they might stop and ask you for some food. Now, they just go do malicious damage, you know, steal gas caps and damage machinery and equipment, so on and so on. I think what I've laid out here is pretty self-explanatory. If you have any questions.
Very, very good, Dave. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for doing that.
He's an engineer.
Huh?
He's an engineer.
Eye-opening.
He is.
What?
Double engineering degree. He's a smart guy.
By definition.
Yeah. You have extra copies over there for any of that stuff?
Let's see. I don't on this one.
We'll get to it. We'll get it.
Judge,
How you doing, Julius?
Good to see y'all. I'm Julius Ninehofer, 124 Ninehofer Ranch Road. I'm part of the family that's been ranching and farming for 5 generations. My brother and I are trying to get it handed down to our children. It seems the appraisal district, when they projected the increase of ag productivity, never took into account several factors. One, fence maintenance and repair or replacement. Nature drops trees, lightning explodes trees and rocks, floods knock down water gaps, erosion causes fences to come apart. Then there's deer hitting them and breaking wires, your neighbor's bull and yours fighting and tearing them up, and you have to rework that. But the worst is black buck and predators. Hogs, for instance, also. Black buck will knock holes through a fence because they can't jump a standard fence. And then you start having problems with the hogs and coyotes opening that hole up bigger. And before you know it, either your livestock's on your neighbor's or his is on your ranch. It takes a lot of labor, materials, and equipment to fix this. There are predator problems: coyotes, wild hogs, bobcats, big cats, hawks, and eagles. The big cats will come and jump a tall fence right into anybody's property if they so want to. The coyotes are so bad now, we are having to keep our goats and sheep near home and then pen them every night when kidding and lambing. They will kill any size of a sheep or goat if they have a chance to also. You have the labor and feed to do this is a major expense. Even then, we have a loss of about 40% of newborns before adulthood. The hunters have noted that there are not near the white-tailed deer that used to be when they're hunting these days. And it's because of the predators, coyotes, killing fawns and does, and the hogs have been known to kill full-grown bucks and tear them up. We've seen the marks on the bucks from the hogs doing that. We have about half the head count of white-tailed deer that we had 10 years ago, just in these 10 years periods. That doesn't count further back already losing. So again, this is loss in income, not more. Brush is another problem that they don't take into consideration. There are 6 types of brush that we have to fight continuously, the worst one being cedar. Clearing cedar is costly to do, and there is an ongoing reworking to keep it clear. If the cedar takes over the property, the grass is reduced proportional to the cedar growth, thus less for the animals and also harder to locate the animals when you need to bring them in. Cost of
Mr. Nighthoffer, I'm gonna need you to wrap it up pretty soon. Your time limit just went off.
Okay.
I yield my time.
And you are,
I'm Janie Knight.
okay,
Camilla Janie Knight.
I got it right here. Go ahead.
All right, thank you, sir. Cost of clearing is around $200 an acre for 30-year growth cedar. And that's not under extreme conditions of bad rocky country. That's under lowlands like we have mostly. And that does not include burning and piling it. That's just clearing it down. After clearing is done, 3 to 5 years, a controlled burn is needed to stop regrowth. A controlled burn takes a year to plan, a month of sometimes with a crew of people doing prep work such as blacklining, moving old brush, clearing around utility poles, hunting blinds, feeders, and buildings before the burn is ready to do. Finally, with a dozen or more people, water trucks, big sprayers, leaf blowers, torches, shovels, chainsaws, backpack sprayers, and more, the burn can be done with proper weather conditions. And this has to be repeated every few years or you will have the cedar encroaching on you again. What with the big cost that that the appraiser does not figure in when he's talking about the increase of productivity of the ag production. I thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr.
Julius, let me ask Julius a quick question.
Yes.
A couple things, Julius. Number one, you made a couple of points. Number one, predators and things have decreased the value of the property just because of their increase.
Yes.
Number one. Number two, a reduction in the number of white-tailed deer. Okay. So my question is, have you asked or have you heard from the appraisal district, or have you had a hearing with the appraisal district on if they consider those types of things?
We are scheduled, I think it's next month.
Okay.
On this.
Okay.
But they allow for certain things like wells for your water and things like
Right.
that you are considered. Okay. But they don't look at all of the labor it takes to support all of it.
Well, I'm just talking about the things you don't have control over.
Yes.
Coyotes and hogs and things like that, which are increasing, number
True.
one. Number two, the white-tailed deer, which is important to property value, is decreasing. So to me, that doesn't have anything to do with labor or anything like that. And that's something you can't control.
Well, that and this year's big hailstorm we had, we completely lost all of our pasture grass. It was flattened.
Right.
I mean, brown in 2 days. We lost our oat crops. I mean, we have, again, weather we can't control eating us up this year.
Another good point. Thanks, Julius.
All right.
Thank you. Who do we have next, Sheriff?
What's the chance of taking a break?
I don't know how many more we've got. I don't have that many more here. I've got a homeowners association. It looks like there's about 4 of them. I know. Just try it.
Or you can just get up and
Got a bunch of old men here.
get up and leave if you need to. I've done it before.
Yeah. Welcome. Please state your name and address.
Larry Lee Friedel Jr., 107 Megan Lane, Ingram, Texas.
Okay.
Probably know some of y'all, they're friends and family. Don Harris, my old ag teacher. Rob Kelly, went to school with Megan Russell, friends of hers for years. So, small community. Everyone's here talking about ag productivity value and whatnot. My main issue is I have a residential house and the valuation of it went up 300%, quadrupled in value overnight. The land is still the same, there's no improvements on it. What I passed along was y'all's current appraised value, comparables. Literally an 1/8 mile away, my home's in Hills and Dales. It's an open subdivision. 1/8 mile away is a Cypress Springs. It's a subdivision, good homeowner association. River access, land already cleared. And the land in there is $13,000, $15,000 an acre. Been on the market for over a year. obviously the mark's not dictating as to sell for that. And here, from last year to this year, 3 separate lots, each one an acre apiece, went from $10,000 to a little over $40,000 an acre. It's a cedar break and a patch of rocks. There ain't no water, there ain't no utilities, water, septic, infrastructure, nothing. And I try to be a good steward of the community. I'm a volunteer firefighter. Been here my whole life, graduated from Shawnee with a degree, and I love doing things for the community and paying my taxes when they're fairly appraised. When you put arbitrary value on it, I feel that's unjustified, and just trying to voice my opinion to see what kind of recourse we can all come to consensus that, you know, a piece of land is what it's worth that someone's going to pay for it. And if you just put an arbitrary value on it, it's not a true appraisal. And I know for a fact no one has come to my land and checked it in person, nothing. You know, and even going from one section to one section to one section, every piece of land is different. It has different characteristics of trees, you know, slopes, inclines, gravel type, everything. You know, just my 3 sections, one's straight cedar, the next one's a hillside, another one's a good pasture of oak trees. You know, those 3 lands are not worth the same amount. You know, that's my 2 cents.
So Larry, looking at what you just gave us, looked like your proposed value is increased by a factor of 4.
Correct.
A factor of 4, not 47%.
No, 300%, factor of 4.
Right, 400%.
Yes, sir.
A factor of 4. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, I can understand, you know, increases for inflation, for incoming people to the market, you know, buying lands at higher values. A lot of people come from California and they sell their land. The house, a 2-bedroom house for $300,000, $400,000 come to Texas. But golly, I could buy 1,000 acres and a 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom house for half of that. You know, you inflate that market so grossly that using comparables as your justification for valuation, it skews it.
So you've appealed this?
Yes, sir. I filed my protest, and I'm waiting to hear back from y'all whenever I can meet with the appraisal board or whatever. I've tried.
You understand, we have nothing to do with that.
Yes, sir. All y'all have is the county tax rate.
Right.
You know, and there's no way you can lower that tax rate to offset the difference of what the appraisal's done. But my viewpoint, since y'all are, you know, duly elected officials and good stewards of the community, that you would have some sort of accountability or recourse to keep these other people in check. I mean, if it's just an appraiser saying it's worth X amount, well, I'd like to see your justification for it, and I'd hope other members in the community go, whoa, red flag, that's not right, it's not fair. With this tax increase, I don't make a lot of money, you know. You're essentially wanting me to work 1 month out of a year to give you all taxes for me to have the rights to own a piece of property. That makes me no money. So, you know,
Okay.
either I'm gonna go broke or, you know, we'll see what happens.
Thanks.
That's all I needed. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Larry.
If I may speak.
And you are?
I'm Doug Hill. I live in Hunt.
Okay.
Property taxes are an issue, and I understand yours is just a small part of what my tax bill is. My problem is, I guess, with the money that I pay into my school taxes ends up going other places. And I know y'all don't have any control over that. As like Buddy said, you're elected officials here. If there's any way that y'all can hold Kirk accountable, go to Austin and voice your opinion.
They're going to be on the agenda at 11 o'clock.
Okay, that's good.
So you can watch them upstairs.
Yeah, that would be good. I'm interested to look there, but it all is in Austin is where our problem begins. Y'all are all good people. I know most of you. The farmers were here, and they're in trouble. Our youth is in trouble. They'd like to stay here, but they're not going to be able to do that. And so whatever y'all can do, I think it's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Hill.
you for your service too.
He didn't have a phone. I know. I called him.
My name is Mike Matheny. I have a cottage at the Hunt on the River Homeowners Association. My wife and I have owned it for over 30 years. All of our children have attended the camps, and my grandchildren are going there now. I was a lawyer for 50 years. I was board certified in family law and criminal law, and I was a district court judge. And I never thought in my practicing career I'd see the conditions that we have now. And I'm not here to complain about it. I think that from what I've seen, that you're trying to do the best you can with what you got. And you're applying reason to unreason, and I understand that, and I don't envy your job right now. But in my little situation, they have increased the value of the 800ths of an acre that my little townhouse is on by 1,300% in 2 years. That does not comport with logic, period. It just doesn't. They have valued my 800ths of an acre lot at $1,750,000 an acre. Somebody has misplaced their zero somewhere. It's just ridiculous. Now, I know you don't have the authority to go tell them what to do. The guy that designed that law was a friend of mine, because that's just what happened in years past. And a lot of this is just venting. But I'm specifically asking that this Commissioners Court issue a resolution that because of the worldwide pandemic and the millions of people out of work, and the fact we're having to do this by TV, that the tax rates, the valuation should be frozen to the 2019 levels until the end of this pandemic, period. And that you should make that recommendation to the Appraisal Board and every other entity in this county that appoints those people on the Appraisal Board should make the same thing. Now, if they don't do that, I'm requesting that you, as responsible people, because I've watched this Commissioners Court, you have the best road system of any county in Central Texas and probably in the whole state of Texas. Period. You have common sense. That's all I'm asking you to do. And in the event that common sense does not prevail and that property's gone up 1,300% in 2 years, and that my little place is worth, the acreage is $1,750,000. Well, then we should all argue about that whenever this pandemic's over. And if they won't be reasonable and we won't freeze the rates, I'm asking you as responsible stewards of the taxpayers' money of this county to keep your budget the same as it was in 2019. If you do that, you can counteract most of the effect of this unreasonableness that's occurred. And I know you hear all that venting and everything, and I appreciate your time and your interest.
Well, Mr. Matheny, let me inform you that we are trying to balance that budget. We have a workshop this afternoon at 1:30, I believe it is. 2 o'clock. And we're trying to do exactly what you're asking us to do.
Well, then, I learned as a lawyer, I ought to shut up then. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You said one thing. You said a resolution pertaining to tax rate and directing that toward KCAD. Well, you're an attorney. You know they don't do anything with tax rate.
No, sir. If I said tax rate, I misspoke. I meant the appraisal rates for all of the real estate in this county.
Okay, a resolution pertaining to the appraised value.
Yes, sir.
Okay, gotcha. All right. I think it's a good idea.
I like it myself.
Yeah, good idea.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Keep the good work. Don't let everybody bring it down.
Are you going to draft the resolution for us?
I can do that if I get somebody to time it. Okay, thank you.
You must be Mr. Howard.
Yes, sir, I am.
Because I know who Mr. Murphy is.
I have a statement here that was given to me by a landowner in our area out there. I could read it to you, or I could give you a copy of that. Then I have my own statement. I was wondering how you wanted to receive it.
Just give us a copy of it.
3 minutes, however I do it. Huh?
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, let me give you a copy of his, and mine is related to that. Oh, I'm sorry, out here. Yes, that is it. Here's a, if each one wants a copy, here it is. I got a couple more for you. This is Mr. Nelson. Okay, thank you. Deal out here. My name is Jim Howard, and I'm a new resident to Kerr County. I came to Kerr County in 1962 when I was in high school and went to Mo Ranch out here. I attended a couple of summers out here in Mo Ranch, and this was in the 60s. In 1970, my parents moved to Kerrville here, lived here for 20 years after they retired. And we would come out and visit them, bring our children, and always enjoyed our stay out here. Never thought that we would live here in Kerr County. And in 2019, or 2018, we started looking for property in this area. And in 2019, we purchased a piece of property, just the size that the judge was talking about previously. And we moved into it. And as we moved into it, we realized that in 2018, the property value, in fact, in 2018 we were looking for the property. In 2019, our property values were increased 200%. It went from $10,000 a lot to $30,000 a lot. And we didn't see anything wrong with that, and so we went ahead and purchased, and here we are. And then we get the tax statement showing that our 3,600 square foot piece of land under our townhouse was going to be valued at $140,000. It's a 1,300% increase over the 2019 taxes. And so this has really gotten our attention. I have made a study of other taxable, other lands in our area. We cannot find it anywhere where this has been matched for our little group. The taxable value for good gracious, my watch is going off.
I think you got started a little late. Let's give him a little bit of time. 40
seconds, I'm sorry. Okay, our taxable value for 30,920 square feet was $140,000 is proposed, and it is at $35.71 a square foot. I have a statement here that shows comparable values for townhouses in Kerr County. There's none that come even close to ours. And it looks to me like the appraisal district has used 2019 conditions, economic conditions, to forecast what they are going to collect in 2020. Whereas in 2020, we have been hit by this pandemic. We have a real unemployment rate nationwide of something like 20%. We purchased our property when the unemployment rate was down less than 4%, which was historical, having it that low. The rate that we are now, we're looking at depression time rates for unemployment. Oil prices were reasonable in 2019. In 2020, they have dropped 30-something%. Oil wells are being closed down, capped off, people are being laid off. So we have a pandemic going on that is not reflected in the appraisals that we've been given. And I know they do it on the first of the year, January 1st, and conditions were pretty good on January 1st. However, we're here in July 13th. We're wearing masks, we're social distancing, we're not moving about like we used to and all. Things have changed. So I echo the judge's request that we go to the appraisal district, or we tell the appraisal district that we will hold taxable values at the values they were in 2019. That would be a 200% increase on us, but that's okay. We can take that. But to raise it to the 2020 level of $140,035.71 per square foot, that my 3,800 square foot piece of land and my 1,460 foot building on it is excessive, and I think it is unrealistic and it's unmatched, I think, in the county.
Where's your property again?
Is it Hut on the river?
Okay.
Okay, and we're actually not on the river.
Yeah.
But it's near the river.
Okay,
and
gotcha.
we have access to it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Howard. Bill Murphy.
Thank you, sir. Gentlemen, thank you for taking your valuable time to hear from the many citizens of Kerr County who depend on you to make the right decision. Not only for the current residents of Kerr County, but for those who will hopefully come to take our place and or add to the growth of the county in the future. I'm William Murphy. I'm a 75-year young veteran. I've owned property in Kerr County since 1975. And you will find it of interest that I've never felt that you and those who have served before you needed my input. But as of today, that has changed. I am here today as the president of the Hunt on the River Homeowners Association in Hunt, Texas, which consists of 11 property owners. I am one of those property owners. As you've heard from 2 of our property owners, the taxing authority has chosen to raise our land under our townhomes a total of 1,300% over the past 2 years. The 9 townhomes we own were built 35 years ago at an approximate cost of $45,000. Each, along with the 100-year-old rock home in our development, according to the appraisal district we now have, as was pointed out by Mr. Howard, some of the most expensive property per square foot in Kerr County. It is apparent that the appraisal district is not aware of the worldwide pandemic that is having an impact on all of us here today. I'm wearing a mask to protect my fellow citizens. At my age, I am told that if I get the virus, my life will be shortened or ended. Millions of Texans have lost their jobs. Real estate values are in question. Heck, life is in question, especially if you're one of the categories that makes you vulnerable person to the virus. Yet the taxing authority wants you to allow them to perpetrate tax increases as much as 367% for the new year on property owners, while they have failed to send out the information they use to come up with their numbers to property owners who have requested the information in writing, and it has still not been sent to all but one of our property owners. May I also point out again, we are in a world pandemic, and information gathered before February 2020 seems to be less than relevant during these times. I, like Mr. Matheny and Mr. Howard, am requesting that this board consider freezing all property at the 2019 levels until the pandemic has run its course and is no longer having a negative impact on the economy. I thank you for your time and consideration and pray that this pandemic war we are all fighting ends soon. Respectfully, William Murphy. Thank you very, very much. God bless you.
I've only got one more form, Sheriff. On this topic, I just have one more, is that right?
You got one more on this topic? Or is there anybody? Who did you have, Judge? I think you got everybody.
Cynthia Reek.
Who?
R-I-E-C-K. Cynthia.
R-I-E-C-K?
Rick.
Rick. If that's all we have on this agenda item, Well, let me just, let's finish up the agenda item. Is there any,
Just to make sure.
let me ask the commissioners, are there any comments or discussion you want to have on this topic before we wrap it up and take a break? Okay.
I like the resolution idea. I don't know, I mean, other than us, how we set our rate, that's all we can do.
That's right. And, you know, if we reduce the rate, it's not gonna touch some of those astronomical deals. I mean, you know, as much as we'd like it to.
I really like the idea of the
I do
resolution.
too.
It's good faith as much as anything.
Well, I think-
We do have to balance our budget. We have that responsibility. But if we can, in good faith, reduce the rate, I think we should. We all agree with that. But whether we can is another issue.
I think we need to listen to our tax assessor collector talk to us about what all the history that went on this.
Put on what?
The history this year about what's ever.
Here's Jonathan has a comment.
I do have a comment. To me, there's two issues. One, the pandemic issue and the way the appraisal system is done. I don't think, I'd be interested to hear what Sharon has to say. I don't think we locally have authority to change that, but the legislature and the governor certainly, I think, do. And so I think any resolution we do about that should be directed to the legislature and to the governor.
I don't agree.
On the high increase in ag value, to me, that's a separate issue. And what concerns me on that is that there are, I don't know how many thousand acres people did file protests, but there's far more that didn't. And for whatever reason, whether they were sidetracked because of the pandemic, whether they were out of town. And I think that it makes very little sense to me the way it was done. I mean, there's no way that ag values increased from 20 to several 100% in a year. I listened to a lot of the comments and I agree with what they said, especially the ones related to ranching and cedar clearing and expenses. I've never really looked into or understood how that process works, but if they are not taking into account the actual expenses of ranching, then their system is wrong.
You're right.
And that needs to be corrected. And I think that's, so I have to me, it's the issue, those that file a protest, hats off to them, I hope they're successful. But my concern is to the thousands of people that didn't file protests for whatever reason, and they're going to have to be hit with these higher values that with very little justification in my mind. So that's all the comments that I have. Thanks.
Okay.
I'll say, this is the first year I've ever filed for a protest, and I did.
This appears to me to have been done with developers in mind, not ranchers. That's what I heard as I listened to everybody talk, and the increase in the rates and what's required to run a ranch versus what that property's worth if I buy it, put in a couple of roads and put in some houses. That's what I think I heard.
Well, we'll hear in a little bit from them.
Okay, unless there's any more discussion on this agenda item, then we're going to take a break. We'll be in recess for 5 minutes. We'll be back at 10 till 11, and we'll hear from the chief appraiser at 11 o'clock. We'll come back to session. We've got some 10 o'clock items. We're going to try to do as many of these as we can quickly, Charlie. 1.7, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action for the court to waive plating oversight and approval of the City of Kerrville for the revision of plat for Kerrville South Ranches.
Move for approval.
I second that.
Motion been made by Commissioner Moser, seconded by Commissioner Blue to approve the waive plating oversight.
I have a comment.
Good job, Charlie.
I'm sorry, I have a comment. There was somebody who wanted to speak on an item regarding a plat, but they didn't put the agenda item. They gave an address. Is
Alan Brown.
Was it Alan Brown?
Yes?
Oh, he's left.
Next
He's
item.
he's okay. It's okay.
Okay. Good. So, Commissioner Moser made the motion. Commissioner Blue seconded. Any further discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 4-0. 1.8, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action for the court to set a public hearing for 10 a.m. on August 24 for a revision of plat for Brown Acres, lots 1, 2, and volume.
I move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Harris, seconded by Commissioner Moser to approve the public meeting for August 24 at 10 o'clock. Any further discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 4-0.
Point of information or point of order. Judge, I apologize. Did we need to call Commissioner Lutz?
No.
No?
Okay.
He's on the phone.
I'm
Okay.
on the phone.
Okay.
1.9, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to set a public hearing for August 24 at 10 a.m. to abandon, vacate, and discontinue all of Lane East, approximately 1.02 acres.
May I speak on that?
Yes.
We'd like to only abandon and discontinue this road. We don't want to vacate it. And I
Okay.
apologize, when I turned in my agenda bill, I didn't have that clear.
So it's going to be to abandon and discontinue that road.
Yes, sir. And
I
then be
move
setting
And
a public hearing.
I agree with that.
I move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Harris, seconded by Commissioner Moser to approve the abandonment and discontinuation of Lane East. Any other discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 4-0. 1.10. Consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to rescind court order number 38161 regarding the Texas Department of Transportation County Transportation Infrastructure Fund grant award. Mr. Hastings.
Thank you. If we could please rescind the court order that approved the judge signing the agreement. The agreement's not ready. We need to have a resolution to go with that agreement. And we'll bring that at a future agenda date.
Move for approval.
Okay, motion's been made by Commissioner Moser, seconded by Commissioner Blue to rescind court order 38161. Any other discussion about it? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. Okay. That's got all of yours, Charlie?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for your patience. Ms. Lands, I got 11 o'clock. Can we do yours pretty quickly? Okay. Then I'm going to call 1.11, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to set a public hearing on August 13th at 10 a.m. to be held in the Commissioner's courtroom for the purpose of presenting the Kirk County District Court Records and Archive Plan for fiscal year 2020 to 2021. Ms. Lands.
It's just setting a public hearing for that date.
Move for approval.
Second. Go.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Moser, seconded by Commissioner Blue to set a public hearing for the Kirk County District Court Records Archival Plan. Any further discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 4-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Record time.
Reagan? Was yours quick?
Yes, sir. Come on. 1.12, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to accept recent donations from 3 citizens and multiple items from Kendall County Animal Services. Reagan Gibbons.
Good morning. Just coming here with some donations that we got, totaling $70 from 3 individuals, one of which was in memory of an Aaron Trey Shackelford, so I wanted to read that in Commissioner's Court. And then we also were contacted by Kendall County Animal Services, and they were getting rid of quite a few items that were still in working order that would be beneficial for us. So some cat banks, they're called, stainless steel for cats in the cat room to hold them. Kennels, some other types of cages that we can use for different situations, and a stainless steel table, and some beds for the animals that were in decent shape. So
Good.
I move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Harris to accept the recent donations from 3 citizens and the multiple items from Kenville County Animal Services. It was seconded by Commissioner Moser.
Yep.
Any other discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. 4-0, unanimous. Okay, James, let's try to finish you up. 1.13, consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to purchase handheld electrostatic disinfecting sprayers.
Yes, this is just to start the discussion. We had a couple of departments requesting to buy a disinfecting sprayer, and we just wanted to kind of clarify if that's what the court wants to do, how many should we purchase, who should use them, how often, if they're safe, and just kind of those kind of questions.
I had asked Shane to get with some different departments last week, and I think he had that information. Is Shane out there? Now, how do you know you have to lower that?
Good morning, gentlemen. We've had some questions about a sprayer to help sanitize or disinfect the courthouse. There are several people asking for one, and I do have some information in regards to that. The company name is Hot C. Carlson, and it's a handheld electrostatic sprayer. The cost of one is $764 each. They also have a backpack sprayer for $1,800 and $44. And the disinfecting the product is a vital oxide. Comes in 55 gallons. The backpack sprayer would be something that could be utilized at the ag barn. When we had a sales rep come out, one of the guys from the Global Spectrum came out and watched the demonstration. They would be interested probably in a backpack sprayer given the large size of the facility that they would be spraying. We also, with just the handheld sprayer, it took 10 minutes to do all of courtroom 1. That was spraying all the seats, the handrails, countertops, equipment, and you can actually spray the equipment with it. One of the deals with it, though, because when we asked the questions, it says it is EPA approved to fight COVID-19. However, there are no kill claims with any of the products that they're claiming that kills COVID. There are really no kill claims, but it's EPA approved to fight COVID-19.
When would these things be used?
Right away.
Right after.
No, I'm saying at night, just before court begins, or what?
You could use it before court. Go in there and spray. Take your 10 minutes.
I understand, but the reason I ask is because we discussed this before.
Yes,
Cleaning everything at night. Well, all the science, quote, all the science says, if a surface like that left for hours, the virus is going to die. So if we're cleaning everything at night, it's probably not doing any good. Okay, so if it's right before, I can see some benefit in it. Okay, but so that's the question. People want it to use when?
Immediately, like say after per the courts, when they're done with a case and they change to do another one.
Okay.
You could go in there,
okay,
take 10 minutes to spray.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. Okay.
What is this electrostatic thing? What does that mean?
The electrostatic is a battery-powered handheld device that it can shoot a really fine mist, and he put it, the tank that he used held a quart, and we covered everything with a half of a quart in that courtroom 1. So it can do a very fine mist, or if you needed to, it can kill moles and other stuff like that. You can use it on a heavier setting and really kind of hose it down to do that.
Now, is this a rechargeable battery?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you leave it at night, recharge, and use it the next day?
Yes, sir.
And this is $764 per department?
Per unit.
Per unit.
So how many People gonna share them?
Well-
What are we talking about?
That was the question I posed to him. What other departments would want it?
Yeah.
I would think one would need to be here if we got one to stay in the courthouse. But then, if West Koran.
Why don't we look and see how many we need?
Well, that's
Okay,
what
and
he
then come
did.
back.
Yeah, if you had one here, one at the Ag Barn, one at the annex, would that be?
At least a backpack sprayer for the ag barn,
That makes sense.
because of the heavy flow and large volume that would be needed. And I think for at least 2 for the courthouse, because if you do have 2 courtrooms going on at the same time, you, to minimize the amount of time it would take to get it taken care of. And plus there are offices that have indicated that they would like to do that occasionally throughout the day themselves, on their own, if they wanted to.
Now, Shane, when we had the workshops, the VFD and the BSO, I know one of the guys came through in between workshops and sprayed down every chair. So what do they have, what are they utilizing now? One of those?
Maybe something similar to that.
Well, we need to find out. I mean, do they need a backpack or they have something they're comfortable with now? Because they did come through there.
They have something, they helped us with early voting.
Sure.
They have something
yeah.
like that.
Exactly.
So they may already have one?
Yeah, because they sprayed down every chair in between the VFD
Look,
and the
instead of us sitting
BSO.
here real time figuring out how many we need, why don't we come back and recommend how many we need?
Absolutely.
Also,
Because we got a lot of
Come back
people
and
waiting to
recommend how many we
testify.
need.
For the,
Shane?
So,
Okay.
we'll put it back on the agenda.
Sound like a
Road
good
Bridge
idea.
does have one, and
Yes,
they're
they do.
utilizing it, so it
Okay,
is important we get one, especially in the courtroom.
we're gonna come back and see.
I agree.
Okay. For those people that are upstairs in the courtroom waiting to talk on item 1.5, we have a timed item that was scheduled for 11 o'clock that we're going to take. And it relates to, I believe it was item 1.4. This is a presentation from the Kirk Central Appraisal District representatives regarding the appraised values in Kerr County. And we're sitting out here in the hallway, Sheriff, right around the corner, will be the chief appraiser for the Kirk County Appraisal District, Sharon Constantinides, and she'll introduce the people that she has with her.
When she gets here, bring her in. You can come on in there.
And for the people that are waiting upstairs, we're going to get back to you just as soon as we finish up with this.
Is it okay if I turn this off while I'm talking?
Yes, Yeah, that's part of the governor's order.
Okay, whenever y'all are ready, or?
We're ready.
Oh, okay. My name is Sharon Constantinides. I'm the chief appraiser from the Kerr Central Appraisal District. I'll give you a little bit of history on myself too. I grew up here in Kerr County on a ranch in West Kerr, which I still manage along with my sisters. So I can understand what the ranchers are talking about. I deal with coyotes, hogs, all that stuff also. I moved away for a while when I first got married, but I came back home and this is my home. And anyway, that's just kind of a little bit of information for me. I've been doing appraisal district stuff since '85, so I'm considered an old timer. Not a whole bunch of us left anymore. I know y'all had some questions on how we arrive at the values in that. I have with me today Carla Pope Osborne. She's from Purdue. She used to work at one time for the comptroller's office, and now she works for the law firm that represents us and also the tax office. And she knows all the calculations. She's got a bunch of documents that she can give us, you also. So I'm going to go ahead and let her take over. And then if you have
Go ahead and introduce the other one you brought with you.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is Annie Edenfield. She's my ag appraiser. And she also has ranching background in that. Her and her former husband they still have a ranch in Rock Springs.
And as you get ready to make these presentations, I just want the public to know that I have visited with y'all out in the hallway, and y'all have been listening to the YouTube on all this, so
Yes,
you're at least
I
up to
have.
speed with what we've been listening to. So, with that, Ms. Alford?
All right. Yes, please pass out.
And for those folks that don't know from the Purdue, that is the law firm in Austin that also represents our tax office.
Yeah, let's get Bob one.
Yes, ma'am.
Hey there.
You got a lot of excited people waiting with bated breath.
Oh, I bet, yes. Well, like Sharon said, my name is Carla Pope Osborne. You see my business
Osborne, I'm sorry.
card in that packet of information that I gave you. Just a little bit about my background is I do have a bachelor's and master's degree in agricultural economics from Sam Houston State University. And I worked for the State Property Tax Board and the Comptroller of Public Accounts for a long time, actually in the land department, calculating the productivity values for school districts. And then I left the Comptroller's office and went to work for Purdue Brandon Fielder Law Firm. The main thing I do is represent school districts that have school funding at stake. But I am certified to teach the appraisal of agricultural land for the Texas Association of Appraisal Districts. So I've been doing this a long time. So what I want to do with y'all today is just really kind of go over with you the property tax code that governs the valuation of agricultural land. And so what you have there in your packet, let me just kind of go over this with you. So on the left-hand side of the packet, I just made a couple of copies. It's called the Manual for the Appraisal of Agricultural Land. Every property owner in the state of Texas or wherever, you can go on the Comptroller's website and you can download the entire manual. I didn't see any need to do that. I just downloaded the parts that I'm going to discuss with you today. Okay. But it's about a 75-page booklet, and it goes over a lot of different topics to deal with ag use value. Also, one thing that you have in your packet on the left, behind that manual, is a document that I asked Sharon to put together from Kerr CAD, and it goes to show you the different school districts in the county. And what the estimated increase in taxes are per acre. And then the main thing I wanted her to show is the land market values, because there's a significant difference between the market value of land and the productivity valuation of land. And so you can see, I asked her to break it down by school district. I deal in school districts, that world versus really counties. So I wanted it broken down by school districts so that you can see. And then you can see how many surveys that the appraisal district sent out asking property owners that own property in Kerr County about different topics involving agricultural land. You also will see on the right-hand side of this packet. The first item you'll see, it's labeled Kerr County Productivity Information, Texas Comptroller of Public Accounts, the Property Tax Division. So just want to give you a little bit of background on this property value study that the Comptroller of Public Accounts does. Every year, the Comptroller's Office does a property value study. And that study is to determine school funding for approximately 1,100 school districts in the state of Texas. They study things like houses, land, apartments, commercial properties. And one area that they study is the appraisal of agricultural land. What is the productivity valuation by school district for each county in the state of Texas? And it definitely can have an impact on a school district's school funding. So what you have here, those first 2 pages I've given you, is the 2017 study. The state does not study every single appraisal district every year. They do it every other year. So in 2017, I gave you 2017 here. This is a look at per county, for Kerr. So when you're looking at that document, you'll see it says land class. It lists all the different land classes that the state recognizes. Second column is number of acres. Third column, it says the reported values per acre. So the number of acres, that comes directly from the appraisal district. The appraisal districts, every appraisal district in the state reports to the comptroller's office once a year how much land is qualified in each land class. So in 2017, for an example, there was 471,634 acres qualified for native pasture. The appraisal district had native pasture average $59.62 an acre for a value of $28.1 million. Comptroller's office says we don't think $59.62 is accurate. We believe that native pasture value in 2017 in Kerr County should be $67.30, and that would equal out to $31.7 million an acre. So you can see then at the bottom of the page, for the county, the Comptroller's Office Property Tax Division reported that they felt like Kerr CAD was appraising agricultural land at 89%. Now, bear in mind, for a school district to pass the property value study, overall, and I'm talking about houses, land, commercial, ag land, oil and gas, overall, the school district has to be at 95%. So that's just, we'll talk a little bit about more of that in a second here. So if you turn the second page, in 2019, Kerr County, Kerr CAD had another property value study. So you can see native pasture now, we have 445,328 acres qualified for ag use in 2019. The average value per acre of native pasture was $60, and Comptroller's Office says, no, we do not believe $60 is accurate. We believe that the value for native pasture in Kerr County should be $77. And you can do the comparison side by side to see for each land class. So that's a look at what it looks like for the county. Now you also, the second set of documents you have on that left-hand page.
May I ask you a question on
Yeah.
the first set?
Yeah, absolutely, yes, sir.
So where's 2018 in here? You have 17 and 19.
Right, because the Comptroller's Office did not do a study in 2018.
Okay, so okay, gotcha. Now,
Kerr
let me
is
ask you-
every
let me
other
ask you a
year.
question now.
Yes, sir.
Okay, on 17,
Uh-huh.
if I look at the bottom line, it increased 10%. Okay, over reported value versus what's PTAD? Is
That's
that-
the Property Tax Division of the Comptroller's Office.
Okay, so they increased it by 10%. Okay, over what the appraised value was, 37 million to 42 million. Okay, 10% ballpark. In 2019, they increased it by 23%. Why?
Well, we're going to get to that. Just one second. We're going to get to the calculations of all this, okay?
Okay,
So-
but it's got to pass a reasonableness test. There needs to be something fundamental.
And we'll talk about that, I promise. The next set of documents I have for you is, this is for the 2019 property value study. These studies run a year behind, so the 2019 property value study was released on January 31st of 2020. These 2019 values will be certified to the Texas Education Agency for school funding purposes on August 15th. So on this set of documents, I just printed it out by school district. The school district, Centerpoint, Hunt, Ingram, Kerrville. So y'all could see the number of acres qualified for ag use in each school district. Once again, the appraisal district's value per acre by school district, and then what the opinion of the Comptroller's Office is. You'll notice on some categories like orchards, the state doesn't do an orchard study. Whatever the appraisal district has it on the roll for, the state's going to agree with that. So that's why you see those two numbers, like on orchards, being identical. So like I said, this is just a breakdown by school district so that you could see for the areas that y'all represent what the Comptroller's Office is showing for ag land. The next set of documents that you see here, it says Texas Comptroller of Public Accounts. And this is data that was received from Kerr Central Appraisal District. Once again, the Comptroller of Public Accounts, there are certain documents that they request that the appraisal district sends to them annually. And they always ask the appraisal districts to fill out a survey and to provide the comptroller's office with any actual data that they may have. So that's what this is. This is data, like I said, surveys that Kerr CAD sent out and the responses that they got from those surveys. And this was data, once again, that was submitted to the controller's office. The next set of documents really, and this is where we're going to, Mr. Moser, we're going to get to some of your questions.
Okay.
It's labeled 2019 Property Productivity Study, Comptroller's Office. And so if we look at that first page, after the cover page, it says recap of Kerr County. And this gives you a look at both dry crop land, improved pasture, and native pasture. So what this is showing us the net to land. After we've taken out all of our expenses off the gross, what the net is, and then what we're applying the capitalization rate to get our value per acre, productivity value per acre for tax purposes. So you can see for the 2019 tax year, and this is the most important thing I think that sometimes, certainly, I think landowners, it's just not something they probably think about. So for, right now, landowners are thinking about 2020 and what's been happening in 2020. For agricultural purposes, for productivity valuation, 2020 is not even being looked at. In order for, and this is in the property tax code, it's in that document that's on the left-hand side of your page. It talks about the 5-year average. So when calculating 2020 values, the 5-year average that the appraisal districts have to use, the comptrollers has to use, is 2014 through 2018. 2019 and 2020 are irrelevant in the calculation of 2020 values for agricultural purposes. Okay? Appraisal districts cannot consider 2020. They can't consider 2019. They can only consider 2014 through 2018 for the calculation of agricultural values for the 2020 appraisal year. So then this, what you're looking at here is 2019. So in 2019, the 5-year average was 2013 through 2017. So if you turn to the second page of that document, it says pasture lands. Okay? So the main thing really, I think people are probably most upset here is going to be really about native pasture, right? So you see for the 2019 study on native pasture, and these are the state's numbers. Okay, these are the results of the property value study for the 2019 property value study that's used in the school funding formulas. So you'll see 2013 through 2017. That's the 5-year average that was used for the 2019 property value study, and that the appraisal districts had to use for calculation of value for the 2019 tax year. So you will see the first part of that is income. So you see that lease rate is the grazing lease rate per acre, gross. So you can see in 2014, it was $4 an acre, and then starting 14, 15, 16, and 17, the average typical grazing lease rate was $5 an acre. This is county-wide. Okay, then the second part of income, and this is in the property tax code. Any outside additional income that comes in, such as hunting. Up in the Panhandle, they do a lot of grazing, wheat grazing. That goes into the calculation of income. So hunting income in 2013, you can see it was $6. The state went up to $7. In 14, in 15, they went to $9, and in 16 and 17, they're at $10. So then you see the total income. That's a gross number. Okay? So it ranges from 10 all the way to 15. And beside that, you can see that all of the surrounding counties. So that you can compare Kerr County to some of your neighbors, and you can see what the state is using for grazing, and then you can see what they're using for hunting. So then we get down to expenses. Because in order to get the net to land, for us to be able to apply the capitalization rate to get our taxable value per acre, we got to take out expenses. So then you see taxes. This is simply what the comptroller's office does. They take the tax rate of all the school districts and the county, and we get an average tax rate. So you can see the taxes. Fencing. The state does a statewide fencing survey. They break it down by region. Some appraisal districts use that same data that the comptroller's office provides. They will provide that information to appraisal districts. I certainly know I provide that data to a lot of our clients for them to use. Well water, once again, that's data that the comptroller's office collects. They get a lot of information from the Texas A&M Extension Service. And management cost, the state uses 7% of the gross to take out for a management expense. Brush control.
7% of gross.
Of the gross income.
Gross income.
Yes, sir,
okay.
gross income, okay? Then you can see we take out brush control. Once again, there's a lot of data out there available by region. A&M Extension Service provides a whole lot of information. And then just recently, the last couple of years, the state has started deducting from that a hunting lease license. That data comes from Parks and Wildlife. Also want to share with you all, when we get back at looking at gross income on hunting information, there's a lot of data that the Texas Parks and Wildlife does, that they have out there, and the comptroller's office gets a lot of data from the Texas Parks and Wildlife on hunting and what people are charging per acre in the state of Texas.
How does Parks and Wildlife get that information?
If you are if your land is registered with them,
Well, what if it's not registered?
well then they won't have it. Not every
Right.
single person in every county is going to register their land.
What percentage is registered?
I don't know. In some counties, it's going to be a lot higher than others, but I don't have that number. I don't.
Sharon, this is Jonathan Lentz. That's not accurate. I mean, the fact that you're in a Parks and Wildlife program, I have never, and we have never been asked our hunting rates.
That's my point exactly.
Well, I can certainly get that data and provide it to y'all. I mean, I'll have to get it from the
I
comptroller.
mean, a lot of people are not in their programs,
I understand.
and that's your only source?
No, it is not the state's only
Listen,
source.
we work with the Parks and Wildlife regularly, and they've never asked what we charge.
Well, once again, I can get the data and provide it to the commissioner's
I have one
court.
other fundamental question.
Yes, sir.
This is what the state does. Why would the state not have an incentive or be biased to increase the value as much as they can? It's no skin off the elected officials in Austin's back. It goes down to the county. What is their reason for not increasing it by a lot?
Well, let me explain this. The comptroller's office and the property tax division, they're going to follow the property tax code just like appraisal districts are supposed to, okay? If an appraisal district chooses to not raise values of, let's say, houses or land or agricultural land, commercial properties, what will end up happening is the school districts will end up suffering. They will end up having school funding problems.
But that's a local issue.
Well,
The school districts are local.
Right.
the school districts get funding from the state of Texas. A majority, well, it's not the majority anymore. It's probably 60%, or it used to be, it's not now. It used to be 60% basically came from local, about 40% from the state. Under House Bill 3, now, what the schools are under now is a little bit different percentage. Once again, the comptroller's office, you know, and now we're getting off into some other areas, but as y'all all know, the comptroller's office comes in and does a performance review of appraisal districts. It's called a MAPS program. And if the appraisal districts aren't following what they're supposed to be following in the tax code, then the appraisal district gets written up, chief appraiser gets turned into the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation, and they can have their license removed. So it is more of a performance audit to make sure that the appraisal district are following the law, that they have all the documents that they're supposed to have. And one of the questions is the appraisal district using the proper 5-year average and calculating agricultural values?
One other, I don't want to hog it, but
No,
one
it's
other
okay.
fundamental thing. Why does Sharon care what the comptroller's office guidelines are?
Well, for one, she doesn't want her school districts having school funding at stake, but she's registered with the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation. She has to follow the property tax code.
Or they'll remove her.
She would be turned in. That's the law.
So there's a law says Sharon has got to follow
The property
what
tax
the
code.
guidelines are,
That's correct. Yes, sir.
even though they're guidelines.
The property tax code is not a guideline. It is the law of the state of Texas. And that document, that manual on the appraisal of agricultural land, is adopted by the comptroller's office, and it is the law for appraising land that is qualified for agricultural use. But I'll definitely get y'all the information on hunting.
Okay.
I'll email that to you. I'll get that information from. But that is not the only source. Trust me. We're going to talk about other sources here in a second about hunting. We already talked about one source. The appraisal district sends out surveys, and people fill out that survey about what they're getting for per acre for grazing and for hunting. So what this is, once again, it's just a snapshot of the 5-year average that was used in the 2019 study, and then you can see also your surrounding counties. Kerr County for 2019 was a little bit lower than like Gillespie and Kendall, certainly more in line with Real. The next page, which you don't have here, you have a little bit of dry crop land. It's the same concept. Y'all have cash leases here, so you can see what the cash lease per acre is on dry crop land. And so the rest of those documents, you don't do what's called share leasing here, and so that gives you an idea of the actual study that the state does on your appraisal district. The other documents that you have behind you, the comptroller's office sends out every year. You've got 2018 through 2015 surveys. I'm certainly not going to go through every survey, but the comptroller's office sends out a survey every year to the chief appraiser's office, the agricultural advisory board, your county extension agent. They often send it to the farm service agency. So this document asks for lease rates, it asks for expenses, and they use this tool in order to help calculate values. So they send this out, like I said, every year, and then they compare once again, because there are some counties that don't turn this in. Ag Advisory Board won't turn this in. What happens in an appraisal district or Ag Advisory Board doesn't submit this survey, then the state is going to use data from your surrounding counties, because many counties do have very active agricultural advisory boards, and they will turn these surveys in. So that's the data that I have here for you all. Once again, I just want to stress the 2020 appraisal year, the one that we're in right now. The last year of the 5-year average is 2018. This 2020 year will not be looked at until the 2022 appraisal year. Okay, so in 2021, we will drop off 2014, we'll add 2019, and then, like I said, every year you drop off a year, and then you add a year. Once again, that's in the property tax code. It's not up for debate. I mean, that is the law. The comptroller's office, the state of Texas, also gives every appraisal district the capitalization rate to use. That is something that, once again, it's not debatable. That number is what that number is.
Everything else has been changed this year. Anything you can imagine has been changed this year because of this virus. You're saying this can't be changed. And people who are considered non-essential businesses and all kinds of other stuff that's happened this year, but this can't be changed. This needs to be changed. I know you can't do that. And I know that's your go-to. This can't be changed. It's written in stone. But every damn thing else has been changed. And we might need to look at changing this and have a special session in the legislature, is what I think.
Sure. This is Bob Reeves, our
Yeah,
tax assessor.
I know him.
Your question, Commissioner.
There was a statement on it.
Question, statement, I'm not disputing it. Matter of fact, many professional organizations that I'm a member of, that Sharon sent letters to the governor.
Yes.
And the governor said, no. And I've got a copy.
Yeah, because the governor wants to get paid, he doesn't care for lady at the beauty shop.
Well, I'm not trying to debate, Commissioner. I'm just
having my say.
I understand, and I'm just saying that the associations, many entities, our neighbors across the street even sent one. I called Representative Murr's office on this same thing. The governor's response was no, and he put it back on the governing boards to lower the tax rates to balance it out.
Governing board of what?
Commissioners' courts,
Yeah, local government.
city councils.
Right. So I think, I kind of feel like I'm lost in the weeds here. We got way too much detail, and I like to get in the helicopter and get the big picture a little bit better. You listen to the people's complaints that we listened to this morning.
And I did not. I was driving in from Austin, so.
Well, they're complaining about horrendous percentage increases in values. And what I'm hearing you so far is all of the values that they're complaining about are really 2018 values, not even 2020 values.
For the calculation of productivity land, for the 2020 appraisal year, the appraisal districts had to use a 5-year average that consisted of the appraisal year 2014 through 2018.
Right.
So the 2013 year was dropped off, and the 2018 year was added.
I understand this 5-year average.
Yes, sir.
But these people are complaining about the appraisals that they just received.
Right, and so.
Okay. And what you're telling us is this, the appraised values that they're complaining about were from a couple of years ago, 2014 through 2018, 5-year average.
Well, clearly their 2020 appraisal notice, if they, let's say you have 1,000 acres of native pasture. Your 2020 appraisal notice would have shown an increase, a productivity value per acre increase in native pasture than what it was in the 2019 appraisal year. Because when we dropped off 2013 and we added 2018, the value per acre for grazing was greater in 2018.
Right.
And the value per acre for hunting was greater in 2018.
I understand.
So
But these people they're watching.
Yes,
sir. They're complaining. They're upset. And I think what I'm hearing you say is that what they're complaining about doesn't even come close to reflecting 2020 values.
For agricultural productivity valuation, yes, sir, that's accurate.
Because it's a 5-year average, and that was from 14 through 18.
That's correct, yes, sir.
So that's what they're complaining about, is what that 5-year average for that period of time.
I'm
And we haven't even
assuming
seen
so, yes,
19 or 20.
sir. Yes, sir. I'm assuming that's what they're complaining about. Yes, sir.
Let me go back to your first page. Here.
Okay.
Single page. Okay.
Now, that would probably be the appraisal district that might need to address that.
Well,
but
let
yes,
me
sir.
talk about that, whoever's it is.
Okay.
I'm just going to choose one. Centerpoint ISD, 2020 estimate increase in taxes per acre based on 2019 tax rate. Everybody with me? I'll wait till you find it. This is from,
Oh, yes, sir. I found it. Okay.
this is
Right here?
from
Yes, sir.
KCAT.
I have it. Yes, sir. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
43 cents per acre increased to $1.37 per acre. That's a factor of 3.2 in 1 year. Wait a minute, Sharon. Then land market value, same thing, goes up by a factor of 6. Why? That's ridiculous.
Okay. Now,
That's absurd.
The market.
That's unconscionable. That's unrealistic.
The market value, we have to appraise as of January the 1st.
I can't understand you. Take your mask off.
On the market values of homes and land, we have to appraise as of January the 1st.
Okay.
And the appraisals would have to be based on the time before COVID came out.
I'm not talking about COVID. I'm talking about an increase of 6 in 1 year. A factor of 6.
It's based on market, what people are paying here in Kirk County. That's what we have to use.
That's not true. That is not, nobody's house went up by a factor of 6.
Well, we might have been underappraised on some properties. We
Well,
look
then
at-
you didn't do your job before.
Well, we have 40,000 accounts, and there's a total of 11 of us in the office.
I
So
don't
we're-
care about that. I care about reasonableness. That's not even reasonable.
We have to appraise on what it was January
That's
the
not
1st.
reasonable.
And the comptroller's doing another study on us this year.
If it doesn't pass the look-right criteria, something is wrong. There's
Well-
no way, there's no way property values went up by a factor of 6 or by a factor of 3 just on acreage.
Look down the front at the bottom one there, that went up
Okay.
about 35.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
Wait a minute, I'm
I'm
not
sorry,
for you.
go ahead. I didn't think, go ahead.
It just doesn't, when you do that, if it doesn't make sense, it's gotta be reasonable.
We base our information on the sales information that we gather.
That's
We
like
run
somebody
studies.
saying, I don't know because the computer said so.
No, it's
I've heard
based on sales
engineers say that
information.
forever.
Mr. Moser,
You know,
please don't raise your voice. Let's have a dialogue here.
Yeah, it's based on sales information, and that's what we're required by law to use. And Carla can explain that to you also. We are following the code. We are doing what is required of us. I understand my taxes have gone up a lot too. My property went up over 50%. I understand. I grew up in this county. But I have a job to do, and that is my job, to follow the law.
it's to be reasonable,
To follow the law.
to be reasonable.
Sharon, I got a question
Sure.
for you on this sheet.
Yes.
Down the bottom one, land market values. We'll just take the top one that says Ingram ISD. We got 2,000 to 1,400 and 500 per acre. Is that the range or?
500.
That's a range.
14,000, yeah.
that's a range. The price per acre on land varies on the size
From
of the
there,
ranch.
it didn't change from that to
Right, when
that.
you have the larger ranches, like the Prio Ranch and that, they're at 2,000 acres. They're such a large tract.
Okay.
I
just wanna make
myself,
sure I
because I'm a
understood
smaller
this.
ranch, I'm closer to 4,000 an acre.
I
It,
got
it
you.
ranges. Now, at the bottom, at the 2662 per 1,131 per acre, I kind of gave you an idea. If somebody was paying on the market value of the property, they would be paying $26.62 an acre based on $2,000 an acre. And then if they were at the higher end, especially along the river, like 1,131 per acre. But
Okay.
yes, the land market ranges, that depends. That is based on our current schedules. I was trying to give you all an idea of what the actual markets were. They will range anywhere from 2,000 to
Got you.
14,500.
And then above there, those that Commissioner Mosier was talking about, that's not a range. That's what it's changing from.
Yes, that's what it's, okay.
From
like-
37
Good point.
No. It went up in value 37 cents an acre.
Well, it's interesting, almost all of them went up by about 3 times what they've been, roughly.
Well, no, okay.
Oh.
No. Okay, I should have put what it was taxes beforehand. Like on Divide School District,
Okay,
if you take $1.17 and minus 37.37, that is what the taxes were last year. I was just showing what the increase per acre would be.
Okay, so my error, I said it went up by a factor of 3.18. I was reading what it said here.
Oh,
and
okay,
that's
I
not-
guess I didn't explain it very well here.
Right.
I was trying to
Okay.
show, with us having to go up on ag, what kind of tax burden based on the 19
Gotcha.
rate
Okay.
So
it
when
would
you
have
put the
per
word
acre.
two, it should have been, we were to read range.
Right, I'm sorry. My mistake on how I presented this.
so
But
this
like
is the
Divide-
range from 37.
It went up 37 cents
It
per
went up
acre.
37
Yes.
cents per acre.
To $1.17.
Okay,
So basically,
okay.
the highest school district, because they are a higher school rate, was 49 cents they went up per acre, based on the new ag evaluations. I was just trying to kind of show the difference the ag value makes versus someone having to pay at market.
So if we use Ingram as an example here on this one.
Yeah, because they were the highest tax rate.
I understand, but we're talking about, this is the category that says 2020 estimated increased taxes per acre based on 2019 tax rate.
Yes, sir.
So if I extrapolate that, the current rate now is $1.54 per acre, right?
Yes, sir.
And if we subtract 49 cents from that, it says last year it was $1.05 an acre.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
so that's how we read that.
That's
But, when
still,
but also, I want to make sure that we're reading it right. When we switch down to the category that says land market values, that's where you're talking about ranges.
Yes, that's the prices we have per
Large acre versus small acre.
Exactly.
I got
Yes,
it.
sir.
So we understand what the data is.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And clearly, the 2020 tax rates are going to be less than they were in 2019. Just the nature of House Bill 3 and Senate Bill 2.
But
I mean-
by virtue of the way the law is written, we really have a 2-year lag.
On the agriculture.
So what we're suffering today, we're not going to see any type of valuation relief on that for 2 years.
hang on for 2 more years.
Yes, ma'am.
If I can explain, especially,
Come on up.
the calculations,
that
Now, this is Miss
mostly-
Annie Eddingfield?
Yes, Annie Eddingfield. The calculation that really took that value up was the hunting lease information that we received. And as we all know, we have been in a great long time of some economic increase, which is really pushing the hunting leases up. All this information up to 2018, all of that's what I've gotten with this current issue and the virus and COVID and all that. I see those numbers and that range starting to decrease in the coming years. Doing the average, I can see if we are standing here 2 years from now, that rate is going to be a little bit lower based on the economic
So that the
depression
public
that we're
understands. I appreciate your explanation, but so that the public understands. The values that we're looking at were back when oil was $100 a barrel.
Yes,
And now it's $40 a barrel,
Correct, yes, sir.
right? And we're not going to see that decrease in value for another 2 years because you have to roll off this 5-year average.
Correct. Yes, sir.
I got it.
Yes, sir.
And I will just throw this out, when the legislature was putting together the tax code and determining the best way to value agricultural land, they chose to do this 5-year average to take into account the highs and the lows, to try to keep things more on an even keel.
And nobody anticipated a crash.
Oh, well, no, sir.
And that's where we are.
Yes, sir.
Got it.
And
Tough explanation, I appreciate, but, yeah.
And I'll just, reiterate what Bob said. Every organization that deals in the appraisal world, the Appraisal District Association, the Texas Association of Assessing Officers, the county assessors, every organization that deals with this did send letters to our elected officials.
And let me build on that.
Yes, sir.
Do you go by Pope Osborne or Osborne?
I'll go by
Carla?
whatever you want to call me, Carla.
My sister's named Carla, so we'll call you Carla.
Yeah.
Back when all this first started,
Yes, sir.
I met with the tax assessor collector on numerous occasions, and we talked about this.
Yes, sir.
About these resolutions, and everybody was fighting to try to freeze last year's tax rates. And we actually thought we were going to get it. And then the governor's the one, I mean, and all the professional trade associations sent in resolutions and recommendations, and the tax assessors, collectors were recommending this, and the city across the street was recommending it, and the governor just said, tough.
Right.
That's what happened.
Yeah. And one thing I will share, just try to equate agriculture with this. The Texas Oil and Gas Association, whose president is Todd Staples, former state senator, former agricultural commissioner. He wrote a letter, and I can certainly share that with y'all. I can email it to you. He sent a letter to Comptroller Hager and said, you know, oil is tanked, and could there would be some relief giving to oil operators that don't calculate the lease rates based on January 1st. And Comptroller Hager sent him back a letter and said, no, the property tax code is the tax code, and it is the law of the state of Texas. And oil will be valued as of January 1st, just like all other property. Now, I think we will see things very differently for 2021 than we are seeing for 2020. So, like Bob said, everybody's asked, and it's not going to happen. I personally do not believe we're going to see a special session to address this. It will be addressed in a few months in 2021. So I hope what I've been able to share with you today is just the way ag values are calculated. It's not based on current year. It's based on a 5-year history looking backwards. It can have an impact on a school district's school funding, and appraisal districts are supposed to follow. And I would encourage all of y'all to download that entire document, the appraisal for agricultural land, and it's very clear how appraisal districts are to appraise agricultural land, how property owners are to qualify for agricultural valuation. It talks a lot about what a prudent owner would do, what is typical in a county, because you always hear people say, well, I don't lease my land out for hunting. Well, you may not as an individual, but if that's what's typical in your county, then that's the way that the land has to be
That's the
evaluated.
productivity valuation.
Yes, sir, and it's in those pages that I did put in your packet that discusses all of that. It discusses typical, being a prudent owner, the 5-year average. It will go over all that information. And once again, once y'all look through all of this, if y'all have a specific question, my email address is on my card, my cell number, my work number. I don't mind, visiting with y'all about this some more. If y'all have some questions that you think about later.
Well, let me apologize to Sharon for reading what it said here when I said up by factor 3 and up by factor 6.
Well, that's
Just like my misinterpretation. But, okay, with that, now that I understand what it is, okay, it's still a 43% increase last year over this year.
Right.
Nothing to do with 5 years before that. It's a 43% increase.
Right, and if you look back to 2007, on the top, you can see how the rates have been. We've been able to keep them 56.49 up to 60 for the last 2 years.
Yeah, and that's good.
Yeah, it is good.
But sorry, so to go from 60 to 88, that's the thing people, that's I'll go back to my reasonableness number. That's not reasonable.
No, I understand. I've got ranch land too. I totally understand. And
So I don't know. Still, I couldn't explain that to anybody if I wanted to.
it's the honey. It's the honey. It's what did it.
Well, but as Jonathan Lett said a while ago, his lease rates, I lease some land. Nobody knows what I charge.
Well, we were leasing our ranch too. We had 840 acres, and we were getting $12,000 a year just for the lease of the hunting. And the hunters have to pay their own corn.
But did you increase it by that amount?
We had a 10-year lease on that with the hunters.
So that's the thing
Uh-huh.
that people are,
Yeah.
it's a
You
small
know-
sample that, I think maybe that's the problem, Sharon. I think it's such a small sample set that you have.
It would help, we sent out 930 ag surveys, and we only got 200 back with usable information. If we could get more information back from these ranchers on their cost, it would be a great benefit for us. Then we'd have something to go to the state with and say, wait a minute, you're showing this, but this is what my rangers are showing. You know, without the information, you know.
Can you
we do the
challenge
best.
that? Can you challenge that to the comptroller when you say, no, this is what I think it should be?
If we had the information to fight it. But we based our information based on the surveys that we did receive, or have been
And
receiving.
really, 200 is a pretty good
That's
amount
pretty
compared
good.
to a lot of other counties, yeah.
But you've also had a bunch of protests.
Yes, but
How many?
we have just under 4,000, and we've got 40,000 counts. But we also went up on our houses and everything
Yeah.
across the county again.
Right. So
Because last
you have to
year,
resolve those in order for this to get set.
we are at, Friday morning when I checked the totals, we were still 3.5% out from being certified. So we're working.
What is that,
real-
8? Is that 8.5%? Is it 5%?
Yeah, we're at 8.5 right now,
So you're at 8.5%.
and we have to be at 5.
What happens if you can't resolve
I
it?
have to certify a preliminary to all the entities.
So anybody out there that's a holdout and doesn't want to resolve this, they just get passed over? Go ahead.
My comment would be, I've had several ag protests come over my desk through personal landowners and property agents as well, and I have not been able to resolve one of them. I've resolved every single one. You give them the calculations, just like I've given, or have given to you and other landowners that have requested it, and every single agent has signed off on every single waiver. I've not been able to put one down. And the other thing is, I can understand how the ranchers are concerned with the huge increase from one year to the next, but as Carla showed you our grades from 2017, if you will, it should have been incrementally being increased since 2017, and the ag appraiser, I guess before, just didn't want to take this kind of on himself or herself, whoever it was. So,
Now go back to the waiver. What has to happen there?
as far as the waiver is
You
concerned,
said you had representatives of rangers
yes, sir, many.
talking to you
Yes, sir.
and not signing off on the waiver.
No, they have signed off on every.
Means they agree.
Which means what?
They agree.
The resolve.
They agree.
They withdraw the
Okay,
protest.
that's the approval, is the waiver,
Yes, sir.
regardless of what happens. What happens if they don't sign off on the waiver?
If they had some problem, then they would go to the ARB, the Appraisal Review Board, and it would be discussed there, just like we're discussing amongst ourselves right now. And the same
And if it
information,
doesn't get resolved there?
then they can go to arbitration.
Or they can file a lawsuit against
What
the
I'm getting
appraiser.
at is you have 8.5% right now. You gotta get it down to 5.
But,
In how many days?
Before July 25th.
right.
Or July 25th,
Mhm.
you're running out of time. You don't have it resolved because there's 4,000 people,
Well,
4,000 angry
That value
people.
isn't enough to really, I mean, you're talking about $28 an acre. That's not a big bunch of value even amongst. For ag.
I'm not talking about it.
Yeah.
That's what.
Well,
her-
yeah, what we're
her
doing,
representative
when we're
represents.
working through these protests, we're handling the highest values first. We took care of our industrial or personal property. Those that have the high values,
But
millions
you're
of
not
dollars.
answering my question. That
I'm
was not
sorry.
my question ever. What happens if this doesn't get resolved by your deadline?
Well,
Then
as
what
long
happens?
as that we're at 90, if we're not at 95% by the deadline,
I'm not asking that. I'm asking if you're not at 95% on deadline, what happens?
then I certify an estimate to all the entities.
Eventually, she will be at 95%.
Yes.
So you just miss the deadline and keep going, is that what you're saying?
Right.
Under House Bill 2 and House Bill 3 and Senate Bill 2, and it ties into school funding. Appraisal districts now certify, and not just school funding, but they certify a preliminary number to the taxing units. School districts send those preliminary numbers to the Texas Education Agency, and TEA will set the tax rates for the school districts.
That's based on an estimate of what you expect the result to be.
Right, right. And
Which
they'll
would
let
be
your estimate out.
lowballing it or not?
Basically,
Wouldn't that be safe to lowball it?
I usually look at either what their opinion of value is or what last year's value was.
Okay.
So I
I
try
just
to
like
give
the
a good
taxpayers to
estimate.
know what they,
Oh, yes, yes.
what they can do.
Yeah.
There's not much that the taxpayers, the ranch owners can do right here except hold out.
Well,
That's the only strategy I can see. for them.
no, basically, when they're scheduled for an ARB hearing, they're entitled to one reschedule and that's it. And then they'll have to go to the board hearing.
Yes, but if it's not resolved, then you go basically.
To the
you set
ARB.
Last year's rate.
No.
No, you go to the ARB.
You go to the ARB,
Mhm.
and if it's not resolved, then what?
It's, the board, ARB will make a decision one way or the other.
They can
Right,
appeal
and
it.
that's what you said you were lowballing it. Did I misunderstand you, or are you talking about something else?
Okay, when I certify the estimate, those.
The
prop-
estimate.
Yes, when I certify the estimate to you on July the 25th, if I'm not able to certify by then,
Right.
then I will give you an estimate on those that are outstanding, those
Which,
accounts that are
which
outstanding.
was your lowball, you said?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Trying to
Did
get the
I-
terms straight. I mean, that's my term. I don't know what you call it.
Yeah, no,
but
that works for me.
That helps everybody.
That works for me.
It's just a conservative approach to appraisal.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
which it should be, but
Right.
I'm saying that's the only
Mhm.
option anybody has is say, I'm not gonna resolve this with you.
Well,
In hopes that the
eventually they
rate-
have, eventually they have to, yes.
No, let me clarify this
I
for
don't know. I
the
mean,
the
I'm
people
trying
need to
to figure
understand.
it out.
Well, let me explain how it works. Their opportunity is to go to the ARB.
Yes, sir.
It's going to be decided at the ARB level,
Mm-hmm.
whether they like the result or not. They'll have the opportunity to appeal, to contest it. It doesn't go away. You still have due process of
Right,
law.
right.
But it's all going to be done with these ARBs.
Yeah.
They're going to decide every single one of
So that being
them.
the case, and you having a deadline July 25th,
Mhm.
it sounds like it's just, that it doesn't matter anyway. If it's gonna be decided anyway, regardless of your deadline and whether somebody's happy at the ARB or accepts the terms, it sounds like to me it's kind of futile to go in and talk about it.
Well,
Actually, I'm a 45-year trial lawyer.
If what
Commercial
you're
and real
saying
estate.
is correct, then it's,
Well, this is the time when they're working overtime trying to get these cases resolved. And the more reasonable they are and the more reasonable the landowners are, these things are going to start settling like flies.
yeah.
That's the way it works.
And we have been.
And if they don't, then you queue up who's going to go to the ARB. And then the ARB is just going to make a decision. I mean, it's going to be like this gavel. That's it.
Right.
And then they get to appeal.
And what's made it more difficult this year is we're trying to reduce the face-to-face with the informals. I'm trying to protect my staff. And so we're doing a lot of stuff by email and telephone. But if we have, when we're looking at the sales for the area, comparables, if we can have some wiggle room and we can adjust it, we're adjusting it. We're working with the taxpayers. And a lot of times, there's something with the property we're not aware of, some kind of problem.
Sure.
Because what we do is mass appraisal.
It's kind of like value engineering, isn't it? You figure it out as you go.
well,
And the
we
one-
had
go ahead.
we had several people say today that they asked for information from you that they didn't get. Request for information on how these numbers are derived, that they said. they
On the
did not.
ag stuff? Or
Yeah.
I know she's been sending out a bunch of information.
Yeah, people who are asking for information that we deem confidential, like our surveys. We're getting an opinion on that
With Attorney General's office.
from, with the Attorney General's office. Because as we have it now, it's labeled confidential. And I don't want my license held.
So you can't.
We can't.
Were they made aware of that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
We did send a letter, and the lawyer sent a letter out to Mr. Preo. He was the one that had requested the information. But yet,
You're not the only one. that said
well, but yet, the information, on the sheets that we sent him and the others, it shows the size of the ranch and the leasing amounts. It just does not identify the owner.
I got a couple things. Carla?
Yes, sir. Uh-huh.
You got a tough job. I feel for you. I would like to see the Todd Staples letter, if you don't
Yes,
mind.
sir. I can do that.
I'd appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, I'll just scan that and email
Okay.
that to y'all. Yeah.
Another thing, these people upstairs, there's they're scared. They're, you know, I think they know the handwriting's on the wall, that they're stuck this year, but they're also afraid that it might happen again next year. And that's a concern. And that's one reason they're here, is, my gosh, look what they did to us this year in this bad year. Is this gonna hit me again like this, jump again next year? And you can see their concern. And, it's tough.
And that's a lot. I mean, I'll certainly supply y'all the letter that the Texas Oil and Gas Association sent to the controller. And if y'all haven't seen it, I'm sure Judge Kelly has provided that, and I certainly know the tax office has it.
Okay.
Is the letter from the Attorney General's office that it's made it abundantly clear that what's going on right now with COVID is not considered a disaster
Tough luck.
under the property tax code.
No, he didn't say tough luck, he just said, this is the law.
This is the law, right? Yeah, he didn't say. He just said this is the law.
Yeah.
And so certainly I know that I've encouraged appraisal districts. You know, if you've got property owners coming in and they want to try to say all these things that are happening, well, that's two sort of evidence from the Attorney General's office and from the Controller's office that says property has to be assessed as of January 1st. There's, you know, appraisal districts, once again, I mean, whether you like it or not, they are to follow the property tax code. I mean, when all these appraisers get certified with TDLR, and when the comptrollers comes in and they do what's called a MAPS review, it's a performance audit, those sort of things are looked at. I know for the 2019 property value study, I represented quite a few school districts who were going to be punished on school funding because their appraisal districts failed the MAP review. They weren't eligible for full funding because of that. So there is a big hammer out there, and districts are expected to follow the code. You very well may see the 2021 session. I suspect this will be a topic of discussion.
Let me ask one other question. Just looking at Sharon's page here, okay? Sharon, thank you for this. So from 2007 to 2018, values stayed the same, native pasture.
Pretty much, yes.
So who didn't do their job when it jumped to 88?
Well,
I'm not saying you did, but
yeah.
who didn't do their job?
Actually, from the we don't have a copy of the others years
Your
survey.
I know.
Yeah, I'd have to look, but we were in pretty good shape in the previous years.
No, I understand. I'm just looking at the data,
Well-
okay? So it went up from 60 to 88.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody screwed up.
Not necessarily.
The property value didn't go up that much.
I suspect that the appraisal district was a little low in 2018.
Yes.
They were low in 18. It's just the state didn't come in and do a study in 18. The state was showing in 17 the appraisal district was low on ag value. And then they weren't studied in 2018. And then all of a sudden 2019, the time 2019 came around, we had already dropped off 2 years off the 5-year average, and we had added 2 years on the back end. That hunting income had increased significantly.
Hunting was the biggest one.
Based on very limited data.
150 solid ones on it. Yeah.
But we heard that Parks and Wildlife gave you the information.
I use our local people.
Okay, from the survey you asked for.
From the survey.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. Thank you. All right.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, thank you.
Well, I would like to say that I think that this is, and nobody here can do anything about it, that it's wrong for the state to put down its foot and say, we're not gonna keep our coffers from being filled, and then tell other people they can't even go to work. That is wrong.
I agree.
Welcome to county
I
government.
agree.
That's a whole other talk show.
Yes, it is.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Any questions? You know,
Let me give everybody a preview of what we need to do. We've got one minor item here on the agenda before we get back to 1.5, which is on the mandatory mask. And what I'd like to do is to take up 1.6 with the sheriff, which is consider, discuss, and take appropriate action to approve the video magistrate service agreement, and take a break so that everybody upstairs can start lining up, and I'll call out the names in the order that you can make presentations so they can start making their way down.
Good.
So Sheriff, let's do your video magistrate.
He didn't hear you.
They did.
All right. The video ad, we talked about that some in the past. This is a contract for it if we go to it. I think we came out pretty good on the contract price and that. First off, the contract has been reviewed by the county attorney. One change was made in it, which was just about the indemnity clause. And where the normal price of this contract is $150 per month per judge, and we had 9 judges that would be part of this. The company gave us 3 accounts free, so that's 3 judges they took off, so we were only having to be paying for 6 judges since we had 9. But what this does is, number one, I think it will speed up inmates getting magistrated, because they can be magistrated 24 hours a day instead of just once in the mornings. So that could speed up inmates getting out. It will allow judges to do anything that they can normally do, kind of even by Zoom, they can do with this in real time and with real paperwork going back and forth instead of having to fax and scan and email. The inmates at the jail will actually have a signature deal there that they sign it live real time. The contract also, the company will put in all our current forms that we use actually into the software part of it. We don't have to develop new forms. They will use our current forms.
Can we just save the forms? Do we have to capture the whole video transaction?
No, and the thing is, it's all on them. It's their space, they're saving it. Yes, we capture the whole video transaction. It's all recorded. The forms are the actual signed forms are all in the computer saved too, okay, or in the cloud or however they do it. It is all CJIS compliant, which is big for the state because criminal histories and things like that need to go across, because the judges need, on magistrate, somebody comes in with a burglary charge, they need to be able to see their criminal history. What all did they have in the past before they set a bond? You know, what's the dangerousness to the public? So all this can be uploaded into it. They have it. It's all CJIS compliant and HIPAA compliant.
So this is $160 a month?
$150.
Huh?
$150
for 6 judges. It's $900 a month
$900
for all
a
9
month.
judges.
Now, that's the cost. So it saves you on perhaps number of days in jail for some people. So it's probably, off the top of your head, net-wise, it's a savings to the county. Okay.
It's at least a break even.
You get, or is it in the budget?
What I had for next year, and we'll get into that in the budget stuff, I actually, and we changed, James has adjusted it. It's in my budget for next year.
So
Okay?
you're asking for it for now?
I'm asking for it for now, and by the time we get it loaded, I would assume it would start August the 1st. And if it's reimbursable from the grant money that we've already got, because this is COVID.
Okay.
It's assisting. I will probably have to pay it directly out of my budget somewhere or out of seizure account and then get reimbursed.
So is it in the budget?
It's in the budget.
I move for approval.
I second it.
Well, I got another question. Why can't this be added to court costs?
It can actually be paid for out of the technology fund, which is part of the court costs from all the JPs. It's just the county uses a whole lot of that fund already to help pay our Odyssey program. There's only so much fund being derived from that. And
Rather than this being coming out of your budget, why can't we charge for it?
Charge separate.
It's part of court costs. You got somebody else out
Well,
of
court
jail.
costs, and you'd have to ask the county attorney. Court costs, there has to be specific things for court costs. The IT technology fund comes out of court costs, and that's what it would have to come out of, okay, is that. And the county's already using a lot of that pot of money for our Odyssey program. So there wouldn't be enough really in there, a whole lot. We're gonna look at it in a few years. But it's such an advantage that I think it's wise for us to do it, okay?
But this is a COVID-related expense.
This would be a COVID-related expense, But James was explaining, he can only go through December right now, with the
Right,
COVID.
right.
The other thing is, we are paying for 2 accounts for the municipal court judges. And we're paying those. Some counties make municipal court pay for them, or the city. They're not charging us for magistrate to begin with. So I'm not sure we should be charging them.
I agree.
To come in and do that.
Well, another thing, I appreciate Rusty basically getting a third of the price knocked off, negotiating that. So that helps the county a lot. Thank you.
Okay, we've got a motion by Commissioner Moser, seconded by Commissioner Harris to approve the video magistrate service agreement. Any additional discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 4-0. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take about a 10-minute break. The public needs to know that we have a 2 o'clock budget workshop, and so we're working through lunch. We've got a bunch of people that want to talk to us about 1.5 item on the agenda. And let me read off the order of presentations. Mike Piper, David Barker, Jerry Wolf, Emily Shelton, Stephen Shelton, Rusty Fauzi, Roger Hall, Terry Hall, Barbara Dool, Tracy Spaeth, and Susan Dininger. So we'll take a 10-minute break and come back, and we'll start taking these people in that order. Back to order.
That's me.
Y'all come on in.
The next item is 1.5. Consider, discuss, and take appropriate action regarding making masks mandatory in all buildings in Kerr County, as well as outdoor as appropriate per Governor Abbott's executive order. We have a number of people signed up on that. The first one on the list is Mike Piper.
Well, before we get started, why don't we let Rusty go, because he's the one that's going to be on.
I'd like to go last. That'll be fun.
Is that what you want to discuss, though, is mask, or?
We're going to discuss, we're going to
Okay.
have a discussion, yes.
I just want to clarify. Okay,
Well, we can
cool.
have different
Fine.
discussion at a different time. I'm happy to have it with any one of you. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Piper.
Gentlemen, Judge, Commissioners, appreciate you letting me speak again. I hope you're not getting tired of me yet. But again, I'd like to touch on
So the public knows, your name is Mike Piper?
Michael Piper, 806 Main Street, Kerrville, Texas. In my studies, I've been keeping track with the Texas Department of State Health. Of course, I'm in the food business, so health is my forte. I'm not a health official or a doctor or anything, but I've been watching the numbers. And speaking of this surge we've had, we went from a 0.0026 chances of getting COVID. And this surge, we went up to a 0.0089. So if you want to round it up, 8 or 9/1000%. We got 29 million people in the state of Texas. And that's a very minute percentage of the people. The death rate has dropped big time with the amount of testing going on. Of course, as you all know, we've had some gatherings in Houston and Dallas and all these places where the masks weren't mandated, and that probably caused a little bit of a surge too. You know, people talking about bars and all of this stuff. Guys, I think that the death rates dropped so low. We went from a 0.026 to a 0.0089. The CDC's, from my recollection, has taken it off the pandemic list. Okay, with that being said, I'm going to get back to my business, which is the restaurant. In good times, I run a skeleton crew of about 15 people between my two places. Now I'm running a crew of 8 between the two places. I can't find help. The government is paying people to stay home, and they're making more than what I can pay them. So nobody's applying. I've spent ample amount of dollars with the Kerrville Daily Times and the Community Journal trying to get help in the door. They're just not applying. And of those 8 people that I've got working, they're busting their butts. They're busting their butts. They're working hard. Half of those 8 people have respiratory problems. I can't ask them what it is. I know what some of them are because of the ADA laws. I cannot ask them what it is. So if the masks are mandated and enforced, half of my staff's not going to show up. So I'm down to a quarter of my staff. I'm out of business. I think it's the public's responsibility to watch out for themselves. As I stated in the last time I was in front of you gentlemen, my wife and I both have parents in their 80s. I don't want anybody to die. I have compassion for people. I love people. It's why I got into this business, the business that I'm in. And I think that we need to take that into consideration, that personal responsibility needs to be taken. If you've got issues, take care of yourself. I've got a business and I've got families relying on me to feed their families and pay for their medications for their kids and for their problems. I want to take care of them. It breaks my heart to think that I might have to shut down and they won't have a job. Breaks my heart. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate everything you all do.
Do you require your customers to have masks?
I'm not going to police my customers, sir, to be honest with you.
No, I said, do you require them?
I don't require masks, sir.
Okay, fair enough.
Thank you.
Okay.
David Barker. There he is.
Good day. My name is David Barker. I live at 3722 Clubview Court, Kerrville, Texas. Mask. Like this gentleman said earlier, I agree wholeheartedly with what he just said. I've heard these stories a lot. Masks aren't really all that effective from what I found out in my research and review around the country. I know a lot of physicians, and they tell me that they're really outside of the hospital setting. They're really not that effective. Where we run into problems with transmission of this disease is close contacts in bars and these mobs that you've seen around the country where people are having parties or getting close together. That's where the transmission is taking place. It's not taking place, and I think we have evidence of that in our own community within HEB and Walmart, for example, where for months we walked through there with our friends and neighbors and we did not have masks on, and we did not have any huge rise of cases here in Kerrville. The other thing I'd like to add to it is our children need to go back to school. I think the school district, I talked with the superintendent, Mark, and I think he's doing a good job, and I think they're prepared to deal and manage the children going back to school. I think that's what we have to do.
David, I appreciate that, but that's not on the agenda. We can't.
Thank you,
talk
sir.
about it.
I appreciate that too, okay? But by conclusion, my recommendation is have masks be done on a voluntary basis and let the businesses decide whether they need it or not. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Jerry Wolf.
Jerry Wolf.
We don't have anybody out here right now, good.
Okay.
Got the next one.
Emily Shelton. If y'all are upstairs, please come down. Stephen Shelton.
There's nobody else up
There
here.
was somebody that left a number, they had, there were two that left phone numbers that were.
Yeah, we've got some phone numbers to call. Then the only other, do you want to go now, or do you want to wait after phone calls?
After everything.
Okay.
Oh, Barbara Duell is here.
Barbara Duell? Oh, I'm sorry.
Should we go
Please.
ahead and try to get somebody online and let Bruce maybe call them? You got a number?
My name is Barbara Duell. I live at 2919 Dry Hollow Drive in Kerrville. And I just wanted to say that there is no agreement among the medical people, among scientists, as to the effectiveness of masks. And I really resent a governmental agency putting restrictions on individuals when there is no agreement as to it. It isn't, Fauci himself on April 3rd said that he did not think masks were effective. Well, now he's changed his mind. But, you know, nothing has changed since April 3rd as to whether a mask functions or not with viruses. Nothing's changed. Our numbers may be higher, but that was inevitable with a virus like we're facing. Then, secondly, I don't understand why in 2017, 2018, flu in Texas resulted in 3 times more deaths than we have seen so far this year with COVID-19. The deaths that year for flu in Texas were over 9,600 people. None of us wore masks those years. It wasn't even discussed. Then finally, the issue of wearing masks, as multiple different law enforcement people have said, that it's very difficult to enforce. Making a ruling that you have no vehicle to enforce. And one example of that is for people who have a medical reason for not wearing a mask. Well, you can't ask them why. HIPAA laws prevent that. So therefore, couldn't we all just say, I'm sorry, I have an issue?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There you are. Well, you know, I just don't think that from the county commissioner's point of view, mandating something that you do not have a vehicle to enforce it, you cause confusion, you cause anger among the citizens against each other, rather than just facing that we all need to take personal responsibility for our actions. We need to distance ourselves. We need to wash our hands. We need to be careful ourselves and stop looking at everybody else and saying, you need to be careful. I need to be careful. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
Barbara.
Dooley. We have, is this Deininger?
Yeah.
It's on mute.
Ms. Deininger, can you hear us?
Speak up.
Can you speak, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, we've got you right here by the microphone. If you would state your name and address.
Susan Deininger, 103 Turnberry Circle, Kerrville.
Okay, you may proceed.
All right. We have heard that masks are not necessary if you keep 6 feet distance, social distance. We have heard that masks are not effective. We have heard that masks are effective. We have heard that masks without social distance are effective. No one seems to know. And at this point, my son got Guillain-Barré after having the flu. Perfectly healthy young man. And I'm just going to say, are we closed down for the flu too? We know about as much as we're going to know about the virus at this point, and people who know that they are vulnerable. I'm 74. We should wear masks or stay distance or not be afraid to die. And I'm just sorry I just really am for personal responsibility and for personal choice. And I am against making it a mandatory rule. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Deininger.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Is there anybody else? Want to try the polls again?
Yes. You got it?
I think so.
Hello?
Hello, is this Ms. Hall?
Mm-hmm.
This is Judge Kelly here at the courthouse, and we called in for your opportunity to speak on item 1.5 on the agenda about mandatory masks.
Yes, it's Terry Hall at 118 Independence in Ingram again. The science has not changed since 2 weeks ago, despite the governor's order. And notice that an executive order is not a law. Only the legislature passes laws. And the executive order specifically states that masks are only necessary when social distancing is not possible. And there's no need to mask everybody up as long as you can still social distance, which can be done in many of our stores, restaurants, and in other settings. Also, when you're eating and drinking, you heard from many business owners last time we debated this issue. We made the case, and it hasn't changed. A mask order is not constitutional, and masks are not effective. And frankly, having to keep coming back and doing battle to protect our constitutional rights is getting exhausting. The doctors and nurses have said you actually need mask training when they go to work. I know, like you, many doctors and nurses, friends that we have, and no one's wearing them properly. Unless it's an N95 mask, it does not even stop the virus. There's also plenty of studies that say that healthy people shouldn't be wearing masks. Even the Surgeon General said that at one point during this ordeal. Fauci also said masks are largely just symbolic, speaking to the fact that they are not effective. Bottom line, we're a conservative county. We need to bring sanity back to this fear and panic. Get back to first principles, limited government, personal responsibility and liberty, lower taxes, not a bunch of fines over masks.
Ms. Hall, I have to stop you. We can't talk about those items. They're not on the agenda. We're talking about mandatory masks.
7 people in the hospital is not a crisis. In fact, Dr. Scott Atlas, a fellow at the Hoover Institute, just said in a story yesterday that the rise in cases in Texas is largely associated with 2 things: the protests/riots and the proximity to the border. We're also seeing a rise in cases. It means herd immunity. That's exactly what we need to finally get this virus behind us, is herd immunity. Many of these cases are asymptomatic or people that are not sick or not sick enough to be hospitalized. Even the CDC says, unless you have close contact with a COVID positive person, that you don't need to quarantine, even when people are contacting folks who are engaged in contact tracing,
Ms. Hall?
have said that they've been exposed to somebody. Yes.
Ms. Hall, we need to stay on the task of the topic of mask, mandatory mask.
That's what I'm getting at. that even CDC, in their own recommendations to people who have been contacted by contact tracers about positive cases and being in contact with someone who had a positive case, even they're saying that you don't need to quarantine unless you've had direct close contact with the COVID positive person. We're not having direct close contact by being out in public, even when you don't have a mask on. We're social distancing. We don't need it. We've also learned that there's many probable cases that are increasing our case count unnecessarily. For instance, they're counting everybody in a household as being COVID positive without an actual lab-confirmed positive test.
Ms. Hall, your time is up. You want to put your husband on the phone and let him finish?
I'm sorry?
Your time is up. If your husband wants to speak, he has 3 minutes also.
I gotcha, but can I wrap up real quick? We just want a proportional, common sense response, one that's not feeding the fear and panic. Please don't mandate masks. Stick to your guns. You unanimously decided not to do this just 2 weeks ago. Maintain that position. Reflect our values of limited government and personal responsibility. The on-again, off-again is creating chaos and unpredictability for our businesses. Let freedom ring. I'll hand it to my husband now.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay. It's in my notes file. Okay, I got to pull off here. Hang on. Hold that.
Sorry, we're trying to drive our son to work.
Oh.
He's going to pull off so he can speak.
Now I get the picture.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. I think we can all agree that the COVID data reported through the mainstream media is ambiguous at best. These reports focus on cases only, which does not educate the public and only foments fear. I'm giving you an example of how Lubbock County reports the coronavirus impact on their community. And that printout I left was dated July 6th of this year. And this display of this data provides a more complete snapshot of the current situation so residents can make decisions on how they need to respond. I encourage our county to report our community's data this way and release it in the newspaper and social media. And as a side note, I did talk with a gentleman that you guys all had on there the first up this morning. And I know he's reporting all these details that this data, this example I gave you,
Mr. Hall,
fill in.
Mr. Hall, I have to interrupt you.
Yes.
The topic that is being discussed is mandatory mask. We're not discussing the DH.
Cases.
Right, but you're dictating your decision on masks based on the amount of cases and all that, especially what the public is seeing, and they're being more fearful by how the data is being reported. So I'm just encouraging you all to have the reports that the newspapers put out and everything have their full picture and not just cases, as that graph shows. It's a very succinct graph. It shows you the actual percentages of positives versus not positive versus the deaths and break down the 8 ranges, all that. And it just would help people be able to assimilate the information a lot faster and make wiser decisions. And I encourage you guys to keep the mandate at bay. There's no need for a mandate at this point, and that's what I'm encouraging you to do.
Thank you. Okay. Then I believe we have one person left to make a presentation to the court. Is that right? Mr. Faust?
Well, Rusty Faust, live on Hunt Loop in Hunt, Texas. Thanks again for having me here today. We're going to breeze through this because at this point I kind of feel like we know where we stand, but the first time I came in here, it was because we have facilities in the county. Sounds like most of y'all live in Kerrville. The only reason they're not enforced is because we have a sheriff that doesn't want to do his job. So, but not doing that, and you can line up if you want. It's hilarious when people die and get sick, right? Yeah, it's real funny. That's why you don't have customers.
I'm having a hard time understanding you a little bit.
Okay. I'm not. What do you want me to do?
Slow down and articulate what you're saying.
Get 10 minutes like everybody else.
3.
Right, but that lady had 7, right? But I get 3. Okay. Again, I'm wasting my time here with you guys because you've already made your decision. I mean, again, opening the county barn.
Stop. That's offensive to say I've already made up my mind.
You have already made your mind up.
You can't say that.
I'm saying it.
I changed my mind last time.
Okay, we'll see.
By listening to people.
But it's not going to change your mind this time because you have people around you that are still not wearing masks, mind you, just like yourself, just like I saw you cough in the hallway and all that other stuff.
Mr. Faust, please don't be argumentative. We're
I'm
not here to argue with
argumentative.
you.
I've tried to say my point.
And we're here to listen.
Ask me any questions you'd like.
I don't have a question.
No questions. Great. Any questions? No questions. No questions. No questions. So there you
We
go.
didn't ask you here, you asked to be here, so.
I was here last time and explained my argument. I'm
Okay.
here this time, so now that you can
We
rebut.
didn't ask you to come and ask questions, so.
Right, I came in so you
wanna
could
say.
rebut because I was informed last time you couldn't rebut because I only had 3 minutes to speak. So now you can rebut.
It's on the agenda.
And you have nothing to say. Right. You got a radio show, talk all day, you got nothing to say in court. Right. Okay.
I don't have any questions for you.
Right, so you don't think the county facilities need to be cleaned up? You don't think that the Ingram Dam having people out there not social distancing, not
Mr.
wearing
Faust,
masks, and it's
Mr.
not one or
Faust,
the other?
please. I'm trying to maintain order here. This is not an interrogation. If you want to make a presentation to us, you're welcome to. If you
Okay.
don't, we understand.
Y'all keep confusing people by saying you can either be 6 feet apart or you can wear a mask. Prime example, if you're at Walmart and there are 2 people walking towards you in the middle aisle with no mask on, how are you going to social distance and put a mask on? Can't be done. You're not going to do that. So you're putting my family at risk by not wearing a mask, and that's okay with you. People are ready to die for not wearing a mask. People say it's untrue. I didn't know we had so many scientists in Kirk County. Apparently they're everywhere. They know all the numbers, all the records, all the ways to read everything. What you're not thinking about are the elderly people and people that have vulnerabilities. It's your responsibility too, whether they're your family member or not. You care so much about your employees and you're so passionate about them. Yet the citizens that provide you your life and their life, you don't care about them.
My parents are 80, bro.
Great.
I take care of them.
Good for you. And if you don't wear a mask
Excuse me?
at your restaurant, you're going to die.
We're going to have order in this court.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
I'm done.
No, you may proceed.
No, I'm done. Anything else? Yeah, I figured not. Okay, we're ready.
We have Tracy Space, who we're supposed to call. If we could call that number right there.
Okay. 806.
535-8044.
We have scientists and law experts.
We have one more caller. Is Tracy Spaeth? This is Judge Kelly. Kirk County Commissioners Court. You signed up to speak to the court.
Yeah, speaker.
Well, I was trying. I'm trying to get you on speaker. Can you hear me? I can't hear him. I don't know what.
Just a second.
He said he's getting his hair done.
Are you there?
Yeah, I said I was in the middle of getting my hair cut. I wondered if I could come
Oh.
back here in a minute.
Oh,
About 2 minutes.
I'll leave that to the judge.
No, sir. We're trying to get about lunch before we start back at 2 o'clock for a budget workshop. So I'm sorry we missed you.
Well, I can do it right now.
Okay.
I mean, just have to wing it, trying to I'm getting my hair cut.
Well,
Yeah.
you're on the air.
Okay. So what I researched is an article that basically says that the CDC is not even recommending that healthy people buy a mask or wear a mask, and that's according to it comes from the Delaware Health and Human Services, but it's something they're putting out now. number one. So, I mean, you know, even the CDC is not even recommending that healthy people wear a mask. That's my first point. The second point is that the death rate on the coronavirus has been going down for 10 weeks in a row, and the only reason we're seeing a spike in cases is because we're testing like 10 times more than what we were back in March. So that's to be expected. It's all logical, but to mandate healthy people to wear a mask, I mean, we're all, you know, open to do it when we're around somebody that's immune compromised, such as going to a doctor's office, of course. But for general, just to mandate it across the board is just kind of ludicrous, really. It's not logical according to the data that we're seeing. It just doesn't make sense. And it's kind of like I'm in the LED light business. I've been talking to y'all's guy, Shane Evans, for about a year about doing LED lights for the courthouse there. And it, to me, I mean, it's kind of frustrating that we even having to spend so much time on this conversation and keep revisiting it whenever we need to make a decision and just move on to things that are really going to be important for the county. I mean, this is just kind of a waste of taxpayer money, in my opinion, to continue to have these hearings about whether we need to be wearing masks or not. And besides that, we know that the masks are not even effective. You know, the ones people are wearing are cheap and they're not doing the job anyway. So we're not really accomplishing the purpose that we're set for. So those are my main points.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right. You have a good day.
You too. Okay, is there any more discussion about item 1.5 for mandatory masks?
I have a discussion, and that's the fact that science is not clear on how effective they are. Enforcing it is not clear how it can be done. And there's evidence from other counties that have mandated masks for a number of months, numbers of weeks, and the caseload keeps going up significantly, 300 to 500%. So, you know, there's it seems to me like if it were clear on mandating, I think we'd probably go along with that, but it's certainly not clear to me.
I basically say the same thing I said this morning on the event center. You know, the governor's presented us with hoops we got to jump through, and I don't be any more restrictive. We're going to go by his guidelines, and so be it. We don't want to inflict any more pain. People need to be responsible for themselves. There's Johnson.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Just quickly, I mean, I pretty much agree with what Commissioner Moser and Harris said. I do not think that we need to go any further than we have. I'll be glad to give a whole lot more information next Monday because of my personal situations and my travels recently. But I just think it's unnecessary. Communities that have passed things like this in Houston, they're not enforcing it. People aren't doing any different there than they are in Kerrville. I was in Houston this past weekend. Other communities, to me, it's of no real value to do it, and there's no reason to do it. I think that people need to wear a mask if they so choose. Businesses can require it if they so choose. I personally think that people should wear it in certain circumstances, but I like it the way it is right now. No additional order.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay, there being nothing else, then let's move on to the approval agenda. Item 2.1, pay the bills.
I'll just skip that till I get them.
Judge, I apologize.
No,
It's okay.
Good.
He was directing towards me.
What?
Good.
Wait.
Thank you, guys.
There she is.
Okay, pay the bills.
Yes. Invoices for today's consideration, Kerr County, $140,177.20. Juvenile probation, $23,181.71. The airport, $337. District clerk fees, $1,000. That's
Move
it.
approval to pay the bill.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Blue, seconded by Commissioner Moser to pay the bills. Is there any other discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous? Well,
Oh, yeah.
okay.
I'm sorry.
4-0. 2.2, budget amendments.
Yes, we have 3 of them today. One for the jail, salaries and overtime, one for animal control, and then one for revenue. This is insurance proceeds for damage to vehicles.
Who will make the budget adjustments as presented?
Motion's been made by Commissioner Moser, seconded by Commissioner Blue to approve the budget amendments as requested. Any other discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 4-0. Late bills? Saw one.
Yes, we have the total of them, I think there's maybe 2,
Right.
$1,940.45.
I move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Harris, seconded by Commissioner Blue to approve paying the late bills as presented. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 4-0. Auditor reports.
There are not any.
Okay. Monthly reports.
Yes, May 2020, Indigent Services Report, Jennifer Doss, HR Director. Animal Service Report, Reagan Gibbons, Director of Animal Control Services. Standard Monthly Report from Constable Precinct 3, Ken Wilkie. June 2020, Indigent Services Report, Jennifer Doss, HR Director. Fines, judgments, and juries fees, JP1, Mitzi French, JP2, JR Hone, JP3, Kathy Mitchell. Standard Monthly Report from Constable Precinct 1, Tommy Rodriguez. Constable Precinct 2, Kyle Snyder. Constable Precinct 3, Ken Wilkie. Constable Precinct 4, Gene Huffaker. District Clerk, Dawn Lance. County Clerk, Jackie J.D. Dowdy. And the payroll approval month ending June, County Treasurer Tracy Sullivan. I'm sorry. I move for approval.
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Harris, seconded by Commissioner Moser to approve the monthly reports as presented. Any discussion? Those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, 4-0. Court orders.
I submitted court orders. I don't know if anyone else had a chance to review them. Subject line.
I haven't read them.
So just pass on to the next time.
Okay, we'll pass on that. Information agenda, reports from department heads. Any reports? 3.2, status reports from elected officials. 3.3, status reports from liaison commissioners. Okay. We have nothing for executive session. Is there anything further before the court today? There not being, then we are adjourned.